Can I get your level quickly?
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Give it to me a little bit,
A little bit
harder.
more
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, you're
You
good.
want it harder?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
How hard do you want it?
How about you, Danny?
New York, New York, New York.
That's good. And me right there. I'm good. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good. And you hear that?
Oh yeah, we're rolling. Go. Good.
Danny McMahon and AJ Latrace. What's going on?
Unbelievable. We have AJ in the house.
That's right. We're at
In the
at
house.
our North Side studio live.
Studio B.
Yes, very special. Well, I shouldn't say special edition of the Bike Shop Society podcast.
Feels
I mean,
special to me.
it's a little special.
We have a third person on.
We have a guest or kind of guest. You're not. I don't want to call you a guest. AJ.
We don't want to other you.
Well, yeah, because I mean, my intention is to bring you in a little bit more often. I mean,
Little did you know.
a
You're
regular
like, wait, what?
regular part of the show.
I thought I was coming over for Thai food.
Yeah, this is how we rope them in, Danny.
There's some nice views from the living room too.
I hope you're not busy for the next 4 hours.
Yeah, or for the next 4 years. Yeah. So I mean, we're doing this IRL, as Danny
IRL.
says.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Live Bike Shop Society here at North Side of Chicago.
It's so foreign. It's like,
Studios.
does anyone do anything in person anymore?
It's crazy. Yeah, we're in Logan Square. Beautiful Logan Square. Crisp, cool day. And we're in my office where I normally work.
Mm-hmm.
Converted into Studio B for the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
No,
with
thanks.
you and your beautiful better half. AJ has come by
Mm-hmm.
and we got the band back together. When was he on? Was it 5 episodes ago?
Maybe
Doesn't
4
matter.
or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5.
like that.
It was a handful ago.
Yeah. Yeah. We called him out. Kind of called him out of the blue. Or at
Dragged
least
him out on a Saturday.
surprised Danny.
Right after the Cycle Smithy party.
That's
Correct.
Right. That's right.
Correct. So, if for newer listeners, AJ and I worked together at a bicycle shop many years ago, and we reconnected recently during the closing of that bike shop. We kind of celebrated the closing of a place called Cycle Smithy on the north side of Chicago, legendary bike shop.
Absolutely.
And,
End of an era. 50 years.
50 years. And, but, we were able to reconnect from that. And, so good things born out of that.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
always enjoyed working with Adrian. And we did some early YouTube work back in those,
Before anyone else was.
before anyone else was. Danny, I was on that thing.
It was pretty legit. I mean, yeah, we talked about this a little bit last time. Where
Yeah.
Joe was definitely had a vision,
Mhm.
and like was executing the vision.
I was trying very hard. I was trying to be like what the kids are these days, right? But this was early on. I was like too early to the party. I was like, I saw it. I saw the power of Twitter, and I saw the power of YouTube and
It was cool. It was all very cool.
vlogs and blogs. and
That's why really that's why Robin Williams came to the store.
it could have been.
He was on Tumblr one day scrolling through his
Mhm.
his homepage, and he was like, "Oh wait, Cycle Smithy."
Oh, Tumblr, the Tumblr days. Remember Tumblr? It was just easier times, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we were doing some video work back in those days, and just trying to. I don't know what we were doing. Just promote the shop and have a little fun, and take advantage of all of the. I mean, it was a really interesting time then. There's so much stuff happening. Early iPhones, and just access to the world from your back pocket, which was kind of cool,
Absolutely.
And it's been fun to kind of reconnect with you And with
And then
Danny,
it turns out that I live only a few blocks from Danny.
That's right.
A few rides, and
and you guys,
I'm trying to get back into shape. You know, Danny.
Me too.
Danny's a strong. Danny's strong. He's
is he
he's dropping my ass. Yeah.
really? Was
Oh,
he
yeah.
hard on you?
I'm strong for like 8
No, he's not-
seconds, and then
I
I'm
wouldn't say
winded.
he's hard, but it's just like you realize, like, you know, when you're riding a lot, you like, you know, you have your legs, and then when you don't have legs,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Well, that's very kind of
the
generous.
legs
but
are not there. For
I'm
me.
far from my former self, but it was fun. We did this ride. Yeah, well, we went on 2 rides. We did one ride. We ended up at a cool little brewery, and we had a good chat. And it's the one. It's the one where
you had mentioned that on a previous.
That's right. And the woman who owns it, I believe, she let us put our bikes. We didn't have our locks, so she let us put our bikes in the back where they make the beer.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cool, fun outing. But the more recent ride was we went up north to the North Branch Trail, and instead of riding on that paved trail, we did this little path that's kind of off-roadish that runs parallel to it, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like in the woods, you know, and it's like a cool trail. And
It
we
was
got
that 2-week window in Chicago where you have like the perfect golden trees and leaves, and it's still warm out, and it was just like it's beautiful.
the colors were insane.
It was
Yeah,
really, really pretty.
I saw we had a beautiful fall here in Chicago. I mean, like
We
you know,
did.
just perfect fall season. Like you know, if you had
An
to-
actual fall season, because sometimes we don't actually get it. Sometimes it goes straight into winter.
It's like
Yeah.
we don't get spring. It's like winter, summer.
yeah, and then, like
A
those
lot of times
fall
we don't get spring either. Yeah,
the fall colors last like 2 days. You know, but it was extended. You know, we had like and beautiful weather as well. So I mean, it was just like
kind of magical.
60 degrees and
It
beautiful
was. I'm usually.
colors and-
I sometimes I'm cynical about that or a little sarcastic, but it actually was really nice.
yeah, I really
It was really nice.
I really try to live it this year, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and there was time to kind of enjoy it. You know, I mean, there was like a week-long period of like you could go out and see the leaves and the
Well, it's
colors.
one of those things
and-
where it's like sometimes you see photos of people in California or Utah, and you're just like, oh man, like
Vermont.
you're so jealous. You're just like, oh, it's so beautiful. But then you post photos of the ride. We stopped a few times and took some photos.
yes, we did.
People are just like, where's this? I'm like,
Yeah.
Skokie, Illinois. They're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, actually.
It's like a half hour from my house.
yeah.
I saw pictures of the photo shoot because I think Danny posted a couple of pictures of you, you know, posing your bike.
The meta
you know.
photos.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, Skokie, Illinois.
I made
known?
a note to ask you guys for those photos because I want to use them for a website.
Yeah.
that
No, it was super
I'm working
sweet.
on,
And
yeah.
like, it's kind of like, you know, it's like just a trail and you get people dog walking out there and stuff, but you can open up a little bit. There's some fun sections. So you can like do some skids and like open up a little bit. So it was super fun. And it was still shorts and t-shirt weather.
Yeah,
Which was that perfect balance. Like it was probably like 72, 68, like right around there. And those were some fun rides. We had a good time coming back. I think, you know, we were like feeling it a little bit. And I meant to ask you, AJ, because I know you were starting to get the hunger knock a little bit. And all of a sudden we're talking about food, Joe, a lot. Like,
really.
like we need food in the system quickly. How was that burrito? Because you were like,
Oh, man.
I got this. He was already talking like, I know where I'm going for my meal. And he's got
right.
this burrito place by his house.
So this was a post ride. You guys didn't get burritos together. You did.
I had to run home quick because
Okay.
I was doing something, but he did invite me. Thank you, but I never asked you how that
It was
burrito
good. It was
man.
great. I mean, yeah.
Did it taste like extra good?
Yeah, of course. It's like camping, you know. It's like you get that like different taste.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time camping. The first time I actually ever went camping, it was actually up in Alaska. I went up there one summer.
As one does.
As a
I was
tour
camping
guide.
in Alaska.
Yeah, and
I can see you jumping out of like a plane. Like
I know we're hiking with these. There's like a small group of us, and then anyways, it was like 2 or 3 nights in. This guy pulls out a can of chili, and he starts cooking it. And we're like, everyone's like, "What? You have a can
where
of
have you
chili?"
been hiding that?
And everyone's just like staring at it, and he's just like, "No, fuck you all! I carried this thing."
At that point, it's like a
This is
sirloin
mine."
steak.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
It's like creamy mashed potato.
But it's just amazing how much like your tastes change after, you know, either
or even like
extended
if
ride
you ever
or
did like a
camping.
long swim or something. Like I get ferociously hungry after swimming. For
Yeah,
some
like
reason.
picnic food, like that setting, right? Like that beach setting where a sandwich is like
Yeah.
everything, right? Or you know, just
Well, you know what's cool is I was telling Danny too that so I remember one of my, so actually my kind of intro to cycling as like a mode of transit and form of, fitness and
A way of
everything.
life.
And like way of life actually was through one of my professors at DePaul. He had a class called, the class was called Cycling and Politics. His name was Harry Ray. And he was like a kind of an old school dude who actually did a full bike tour across the country and stuff. But his snack, his like, riding snack was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh man.
And so I learned from him, like, actually it's got
really
protein, sugar, like it's got everything that you could ever want,
Comfort.
I mean, screw a Cliff Bar,
Yeah.
peanut butter and jelly, that'll digest a lot quicker too.
Super. Yeah. I mean, especially like on white bread, it's just like simple sugars. That when you're bonking or when you're hungry on a bike, it's like it's super.
So I was gonna order some of those Uncrustables.
Uh-huh.
Next time we went for a ride, I was gonna bring one with me. So
Do it. My buddy, my favorite one was, I had this buddy who was a pretty hardcore cyclist. He did like big mileage, and he was a good racer too, but his go-to was he would have a little sandwich. He would have pumpernickel, some cream cheese, and then a little ham. And he'd put it in a little wrapper, whatever, and he would just take it out and eat it kind of halfway on the return. And he said that was his go-to, but I never liked jelly growing up. It was just like a weird thing for me, so I always did like peanut butter. But those are so like, you're just like, you gotta like drink and stuff. So my go-to is I'm old school. I do a lot of bananas.
You do.
I do.
peanut butter and banana.
They're kind of perfect because they're biodegradable. You could toss them.
Yeah.
I do try to put them in the garbage, I guess, but it's the perfect food.
I never felt bad about tossing a banana peel. Like biodegradable, all
It's
that
not like
stuff.
it's Mario Kart or something.
Well, especially in the woods, I think it's fine. In the street, can be a little ugly, I guess, litter-wise.
Yeah.
But in the woods, for sure.
Yeah, like on the into the
Throw it-
grass
throw
or
it
on
in the
the.
street, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, banana!
Yeah.
The classic movie, right?
Yeah.
Woo!
You're like those Mario, those human Mario brothers videos,
like
where
Mario
they're
Kart, yeah.
where they're throwing the bananas out in traffic. You ever see those?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they're in the go-karts.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So we had it was a really fun ride. It was a good ride. We did just over 2 hours.
I ended up getting Danny was going pretty hard. He ended up getting a flat at some point.
Oh, I did.
You got a flat.
I got a flat, my first flat
Really?
on my inner tubes, because as listeners
He was,
may
he
know,
was single tracking on his road bike.
it was so fun though.
This was on the bike path or on the street?
It was so this
was
was
out
on the
in the
bike
woods.
path.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were in that parallel path, and we were what it was a pinch flat. So I took AJ. There's variations on the path. There's like a lot of it's like very wide, and it's not like loose gravel. It's
This is what trail were you riding?
North Branch Trail,
Okay.
and then if you go
But it's
off,
out in the woods.
but the parallel one
Yeah.
goes into the woods. It's really sweet.
There's a lot of tree, what do you call it?
There's ruts.
Like roots and stuff.
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you have to be a little careful.
Yeah, like and a cyclocross bike with tubulars, you'd be fine. That'd be ideal. But I basically got a pinch flat because I was
Okay.
hitting some ruts.
Gotcha.
And I know how to ride ruts. Like there's kind of a way to ride them, and just like there's a way to ride cobbles. But I'm just human, so I got a little pinch flat. But that was the first flat I had on inner tubes, and listeners will know that I was on the tubeless for a long time. So I still think inner tubes are good for me right now. And I knew I was pushing it. I definitely dropped a lot of PSI on there, and I was like pushing it on those little trails. But that was fun. Did you like it for real?
Yeah, no, it was fun. In
Would you
fact,
do it again?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
All right,
So
cool.
that's why after that ride, I oh yeah,
Yeah, because then you start texting me, you're like, you're looking
saw
at bikes, you're like, I'm thinking of this bike, I'm thinking of this bike.
Well,
I'm like, oh, here he's got the bug.
Yeah.
So I bought these.
Like, what do you think of this bike?
So I got these like super fat like 29er tires, and because I didn't. This sounds so dumb, but I didn't realize it. But 29er and 700C, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can take as long as you have the clearance, you can put a 29er tire on your
Whatever fits. Yeah.
whatever road bike
Sure.
or cyclocross bike, and
You got some good knobbies on there too.
yeah. But I ended up finding these really cheap 29er tires. It was like 29 by 2.1, so it's like a mountain bike.
fairly narrow for a 29er, but
Yeah, but it's like still, like a
it'll
mountain
fit.
bike sort of tread. And so I put it on the front wheel just to see if it'd fit, and
Sure.
it fit fine. And so I didn't put the rear one on yet. But anyways, after that ride, I was like, I should probably get a little bit thicker tire, not just for the terrain, but also because like that Tricross I have, it's aluminum frame. It's really, it kind of like beats you up a little bit,
Yeah, it's a little rigid.
It's pretty stiff. So.
Did it fit at 2.1 in the rear?
Yeah.
In the rear, you could fit
Well,
it-
so I haven't tried the rear yet, but the front, no problem at all. I think
Yeah.
the rear will fit fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh.
Joe doesn't look so confident.
I don't know.
I'm surprised. I'm like,
He's
I'm
doing
it
the
has-
squints like,
well, but it has
If it's a 2.1, that's pretty impressive.
but it has canty brakes on it too.
Okay.
So
it could work. Yeah.
Yeah, it might. I mean, it might work. I haven't tried. Once you start getting up into once you start getting when the tires start getting measured in inches, like 2.1 inches, and you're doing it on a road bike, you got to be like,
it's
like you almost have to experiment.
well, so
know,
that's actually
so-
why I bought those cheap tires from Amazon because I wasn't sure if they were going to fit.
Yep.
And so they were only like I think $22 a tire.
No more of this centimeter bullshit.
They're very
yeah, no, I mean, once you
We're
start
talking inches
once
now.
it's inches, you're just like, oh man.
But I
don't know
rode
if it's
over
gonna
here
fit.
and immediately it was like such a different.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
different
even-
road feel handling.
different
Oh,
bike.
It handles so differently,
bike, yeah.
and it was immediately much slower too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you could definitely
Yeah.
feel it.
But
And-
it'll be oppositely. I would argue
It's
it'll
way
be
more
almost
comfortable.
faster on those
kinds of
on those
things,
kinds of
yeah.
things because you can't push it too hard with a narrow or high
I-
inflated, which is
I would also say to people out there is like, the measurement on the side of a tire isn't universal. So like one 2.1 tire isn't the same as another 2.1 tire. You almost have to try the different tires
Because of the tread.
because of the tread, because of the way they measure it. I mean, there's no,
Brand,
there's no,
company.
yeah,
and even sorry to interrupt you, but even the specific tire can be off compared to what it said.
Sure.
Bicycling did a big deep review.
Yep.
It was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever take like one of those fancy measuring devices, there's like an electronic one or something, but
Yeah,
like
just a set of
the
calipers.
tire is almost never what it says. It's always off a little
It's a little
bit.
Oh,
bit,
for
yeah.
sure.
And so I'm just saying there's so much variation.
Yeah, and the rim that you're running will influence how wide that tire and the profile
Well, that's
of the
the other thing
tire
too,
and all
is
that
like,
stuff. So
when you start getting that thick, it's usually tubeless stuff, but you can get tubes that are.
Oh, yeah.
that. But on that one ride, I'm so glad I didn't get a flat because I had Gravel Kings on it.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys have tried, but those are so hard to get on.
Tight.
I was getting like blisters on my thumbs. And
No.
like, they're just impossible.
Some brands
Once
are,
they're on,
yeah.
like that's it. Like they live on those wheels forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Some brands are really stubborn. I think Continental is notorious for being like so precise.
Well, I remember Gator.
Give it to the
skins-
Germans, right?
Yeah.
They're so, in my experience, Continentals are really hard. The ones I have now are so easy to get off. I could take the tire off with one hand. It's a little bit crazy.
That's amazing.
Like it's really.
I remember at Cycle Smithy, people, a lot of that was during like the whole like fixed gear
Oh, yeah.
peak.
Yeah.
2008, 2009, that was like peak.
It was peak.
And not just
Right?
fixed gear, that was like kind of peak hipster culture though,
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
And
Do you skid?
right. It
Was the
skidding.
question when
So-
people would come in? I had.
Do you skid?
Do you skid? That was a question.
Because people rode
I walked
without
into-
brakes, so
I
they would
walked
have to skid around. So we're selling a lot of gator skins, but I just hated,
Mounting-
I dreaded putting those.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
we'll sell them to you,
There
but
you go,
I'm not.
yeah.
We're not putting them on. Like this. This is like.
Yeah.
Here, you can borrow a tool, but you can like go over there. Here's the pump and tool.
Yeah,
like you
those-
can put them on.
That's
It's a
yours.
pain. There's like, I remember.
But we had that. People would
Yeah.
remember that, Joe.
Yeah.
People at the bottom of the staircase. People would be like over there.
Sweating,
The bike is upside down. They
Getting
got
all-
the rear wheel
yeah,
off. They're
yeah.
like putting their own tires on.
pinching tubes like
Yeah.
crazy. I need another tube.
Because we would charge, I think it was like $15, I think, to
Yikes.
put on a or it was
Yeah.
like a fix a flat.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a there was a scale there depending on how bad it would
15, 20
be.
bucks. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But usually it was Kelly, but
Yeah.
he would just do it real quick.
Christmas.
But then there were certain bikes where just like, nah, like here you go. You can just
They can be really tough.
you can just
I've
do
had
it
a few profanity laced sessions
Well,
putting tires on, and I would look up little hacks. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
ones that actually worked for me was use a little bit of Vaseline on the lead.
oh interesting.
And that worked for me, but it was still hard.
I would say, and right now, like with the advent of tubeless tires, it's harder than ever with tires like mounting and dismounting tires.
Because their whole thing is they have to be on tight.
Yeah, and they kind of the way they hook into the rim these days, like I have trouble at the shop, and we know what we're doing. We have tools, and I almost feel bad for the average human being out there with a flat tire, because there's no way that you're doing this roadside or trail side.
What happens? Did you have to have the flute, like
you can
stuff with you?
You can put a tube in there. So I mean, if you're tubeless and it gets you have a big enough hole or slice or something, most of the time you can just throw a tube in there, but it's messy.
Is there like a shelf life to the
sealant?
To the sealant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. You have to kind of
got to top it up.
Yeah, you got to top it off, refresh it, and I would say probably every 6 to 8 weeks minimum.
Is there like an adhesive property to it, or is it just like
it's a little sticky? It takes on a little bit of a glue property, Like I was dealing with that today actually with our rental bikes and things there at the shop where it gets a little sticky, and sometimes I have to resort to tools to try to tear the tire off the rim. I mean, it's kind of
that's the content I want to see.
Oh, you know what?
We need someone doing.
I want to see Earl.
You need an assistant doing the videos here. This is going to be gold.
Wait, you know what? And it's not pretty because
that's what I want.
Really
it's
like
all messy
we want the real shit.
Oh yeah, like I mean, if I had a free hand when I was doing that, but I like it's
there's a YouTube video of this guy. He's pumping up his tubeless, and it just gets him in
all
the face.
Over,
and just like blows up.
See, that could be Joe. He could be monetizing.
Oh, it's all of that stuff has happened to me.
Wait, so speaking of,
can't wait to get the cameras running.
Speaking of bike tech, Joe, we were talking about your look frame and lugged carbon.
Yeah.
Should we? I don't know. I feel like
no, I love that. Yeah. Joe has a dope bike. Have you got it on any of the social stuff or the site? You should put a picture.
I
just remember Joe bringing that in, and I remember being so kind of blown away by it because it was like such a special bike.
It is.
And like, holy cow. And then the idea of lugged carbon. And so I was just talking to Joe about what lugged carbon, like what that means or what that does. So you were saying
it's a look 595. So 595. It was, I think that's the last year that they were doing a lugged carbon bike because everything's gone to these monocoque frames, and so the building process is completely different. With a lugged frame, you have tubes and the lugs connect.
It was like new school, but old school.
It was new school meets old school, right?
Literally with the lugs.
what was the benefit? Because I guess like we were trying to, or I was asking, sort of what's the, is it more of like an aesthetic thing or is it like a craftsmanship thing? But you were saying that there's also the ability to
tune the tubes. Yeah. I mean, like each tube could be a little bit different. Depending on the size of the frame, they would lay up the tube. When I say lay up, the whole thing with carbon frames, it's like imagine a lasagna, like making lasagna, like layers of pasta. That's kind of how you make a carbon frame, right? When they refer to the layup of the frame, it's the way they kind of direct those strands. They're able to tune the frame that way. So like have a little give there. Obviously if all the strands are going in the same direction, the frame is going to have a little bit more give. But
a lugged carbon bike, a lugged carbon frame, usually the tubes are like the size of a steel tube or like an aluminum. They're not like these huge.
It's not it's not what you're used to
seeing.
seeing.
You see on the newer stuff, right? It's kind of
correct. Yeah, it's a whole different process, right? So you're making these tubes, and then you're basically gluing the tubes together. In a steel frame, you would be brazing them or welding them together. In this case, they're bonding them together, basically gluing them together.
But this is the bike that you still have. You said, right?
Yeah, I still ride that bike.
It's in your. Awesome. It's in your. At home setup right now, like for Swift.
It's my Zwift bike right now, but it's also my road bike. Yeah, I mean,
and it's the Credit Agricole team issue, right?
It's white, gold, and black.
The only criticism I have of those old look frames is that it says "look" like 100 times on it.
Oh, it's so French.
I love that.
It's really.
I know what you mean. Yeah. It's over the top. I love it. You know why they do that? So that every photograph of the bike shows look somewhere.
Oh, it has a brand.
Yeah, no, this is like a thing. I know some of these shooters who go to the tour and stuff, and now it's much more minimal. Like you just want to have like understated kind of look. Like Canon has it smaller now. They don't do that.
They've gone back to the old school.
Whereas Trek, I have a Trek. It's like, that's the one thing I don't love about it. But that's why they did it. They would every photo, no matter where you shot it, would say, "Look."
When I got to Europe the first time back in 1990, all the masters, like all the older guys, like all the guys in their 40s and 50s, they all had carbon bikes, right? And it was something you kind of aspired to. It was a very
aspirational.
Yeah, it was a very
That
expensive bike.
was
at
the
time.
hot bike.
It was
at
a
the time.
super hot bike.
That would be like the Pinarello Dogma now,
Once rode
or
that.
Specialized.
Once rode the look bikes. So that was like one of those bikes where
A lot of teams.
a lot of teams rode look.
So I actually don't know, but was Time French too? Or-
Yeah, Time's French.
Time was French as well.
Because I think Time also made a lugged carbon.
They're still making. I believe they're still making bikes as of right now. But I
just remember Time and Look being kind of similar, like
they were
peers.
they were competing
they were like
companies.
direct competitors.
They had pedals. They had their own pedal systems, and then Time was later to the frame game. They weren't immediately doing frames.
Okay,
it was something that they did later on. But yeah, I mean, it's just something that I strictly for the aesthetics.
So quick question. What's the aspirational racer frame today?
I don't have one.
Because I don't actually really know.
Because a lot of those carbon bikes, a lot of the bikes of today, they're all good. They're all good, and they all look the same to me.
They're the same, and they're all made in the same.
They're all made by Giant, right?
A lot of them are.
They're made in the same 2 or 3 factories, like in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're within like a few kilometers of each other, and like you just like place your order, and then they put the molds. And anyway, but I don't think it's a great question. I would say there probably isn't a single one, but the ones that jump to mind are like a Pinarello Dogma, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Although, Pogacar, he's brought back the Colnago like into prominence, so he's crushing.
Wait, Colnago's still around?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So he races a Colnago. He won his 2 tours on the.
Do they still have like the ridiculous airbrush styling?
His is pretty understated, but it's a really good looking bike. But he's kind of not that it went away anywhere, but he's kind of brought it back into prominence. Like I don't think they had won a huge major race in a little bit, but I would say. And then I feel like in terms of like race, like I feel like Specialized tarmac is always kind of up there, but at the same time, I think none of that really works because I don't think we're in that era anymore. Like Joe said, like so many bikes look alike and they kind of ride the same. Yeah, everyone has their little tweak, and there's like the branding is a big part of it, the coloring and the colorway and the lettering and how you build it up and this kind of thing. But I don't feel like we're in that era anymore where I think there was great variety.
I was going to say in 2008, it was like a lugged carbon frame. You're like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
what's that all about?
Everything was like in play. It was like titanium. And
right,
like,
that's true.
scandium? Is that like
scandium was a thing.
There was like alloy. There was like carbon fiber.
Titanium was still a thing.
Steel. I mean, it was like... it was going like to Baskin Robbins. Like, what do you want?
Do you remember the carbon stays with the aluminum front?
Oh yeah,
triangle?
yeah.
There was always like the aluminum front triangle.
Yeah, there were mixed frames,
stays,
like mixed,
stuff like that.
mixed material frames. And there's still a little bit of that. There's a company called Bastion Bikes, Bastion. They make some kind of innovative carbon stuff, and the company Envy. Envy,
wheels,
if you're familiar with their wheels and their frames, they just got into the frame game and they're doing some stuff. So, I mean, there's some people doing some interesting things in carbon that aren't the big companies. Some companies here in the United States that are doing some handmade carbon stuff, but I don't know. It's hard to like pick one of those companies and say, what, their carbon frame's way better than their carbon frame.
I would say in a way, so we're looking at it through this road racing lens. I would say actually what we're missing is that whole other world now, like gravel, open road.
So I was about to actually say I'm really glad.
So I think like I'm thinking of like not clunkers, but like I'm thinking of like the ultra romance type bike. So steel.
That has become like the hot.
I feel like that's the thing.
That's
now.
the hot thing. Yeah.
That is that.
What's that one?
There's a return to there's a return to that handmade.
Right.
Not that there's a lot of handwork involved in a carbon frame, more than you think. There's a lot of finish work and things involved with everybody just thinks that it gets pumped out of
Like it's an assembly line and there's no human touch.
Yeah, that it gets pumped out. But I mean, there's a lot of finishing work that goes into your modern carbon.
That's why
frames.
they cost $12,000.
There is, yeah. I mean, there is something into it. There is some part of that, but
as my brother would say, that's more than a damn car.
But the steel bike, the whole steel bike world has, there's a renaissance there. There's like a return to that.
Yeah, because I'm glad you brought that up, Danny, because it seems like just from surfing around online, it's like the steel gravel bike has become, that's the hot thing. And even just taking an old Trek hybrid bike or Specialized hybrid bike and then turning that into a gravel.
Yeah, or an old stump jumper or a rock hopper.
Or like, exactly, totally. But what's I think is it Crux or Crust, right? Is like the...
Crust is one of the
Crust
brands.
is like the one I've been seeing. It's like that's like today's like hot.
I think that's in play. I think you're right. That's kind of trending, like the Crust.
Yeah,
bikes.
it's back in the day, it would have been like independent fabrication or.
Well,
it's. I love indie fabs.
It's not like a super high end frame, so it's not like it isn't like an indie fab in that it's like
But they're not cheap either, though, right?
They're not. Yeah. They're not. But they're.
It's like a Soma, maybe in a way.
A little bit, okay. Yeah. I mean, we interviewed Ultra Romance, and he's had like a collab with Crust Frames where they did a frame. And
great episode. Go back and listen if you haven't.
Yeah, go find it. Ultra Romance. He's a two-parter.
AJ,
okay. Cool. So I mean, if you're lucky,
he needed a two-parter. He's got a lot. He's got a lot going on.
He did.
He's a heavy contacts, high contacts, lots of experience. But I do feel like those all-road gravel bikes, whatever. I think those are the shit now for sure.
Well, it's the everyman's bike. Also, it's kind of it's where I think it's.
And you can beat the hell out of them.
I think it's where the where the average bike rider is at these days is a gravel bike. Like it's the rides are being designed for this group of people. The races are being marketed towards that group of people. Like a criterium. I don't know anybody who races criteriums anymore. I mean, like I just don't. No, I don't have I don't have a friend who's going off on Saturday afternoon to do a crit anymore.
I remember seeing just on Facebook the other night. I saw a Cannondale R1000 for $300.
What size was it?
58.
Dude, is it still online?
It's still there.
I'll freaking buy it. What color?
Black. Oh, it's like such. I remember back in the day. I remember thinking like that's the
bike.
But that's a crit bike.
I'll buy it tonight.
That is like an ass hammer bike that will destroy your body
and break your back.
But it's very stiff.
It's very stiff.
It's very much go in a circle.
Dude, if that's still available, I'll buy it tonight when we break for dinner.
Danny, I have an adjustable stem for you at the bike shop.
Wait, one more second though, because speaking of aspirational bikes, another thing beyond gravel bikes and all this stuff is also the DIY scene, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's
Oh man, we're on it. We're on it. We're in that. We're all over that part. Of building your. Well, I guess we could talk about it in the next segment. Building your own frame and like.
Sure.
I think that's one thing that's one thing that people that have, including myself, people that have spent their entire lives in the bike world. There's a couple of things that a lot of us have never done, like build your own frame, build your own bike frame. And I've built wheels. I've built my own wheels a handful of times, but I know a lot of people who've never built wheels, who've been in the bike business for a long time.
Because it seems like such a
scary thing.
Well, it's like alchemy. Like you don't know, like it doesn't make any sense. You're just like, well, you just put these spokes together. It's just
and there's always this like thing around building a frame.
It's intimidating.
It's very intimidating, but it's also been made intimidating by the people. Sometimes by the people that do it.
It seems very like esoteric. Like no one knows how to do this. You're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
You turn the nipple this way to go that way, and then everything's out of true
and people tell you how
tension
it's really
tension
difficult
meters and
it's really scary. It's a hard thing to do.
You if you have to dish it, God help you.
You know, if you have the right teacher and you have like people around who are like nice people,
It's all about
good
the
bike
approach.
people. It's
all
about the approach. They take all that. They kind of take all that away, and it's actually very doable.
You make it welcoming and open.
Totally, like anybody can build a set of wheels. You know, it's not if you have guidance.
Except me.
So where can people learn how to make a frame?
Oh, you might have to turn into the next segment.
Joe's
to
hungry.
learn how to do that.
I'm Stijn de Wandel from Belgium, and you are listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast.
Booyah!
If you ever get close to a human and human behave.
Yeah, you like this?
Love the Bjork.
We have the license, right? We're good? Bjork's
Oh,
not
I
gonna sue
think
us?
we can only play a handful of
Cease
seconds.
and desist. Bike Shop Society. Cease and desist.
With true Gen Xers.
Yeah, well, you
Gen
made
Bjork.
you made a comment about human behavior. And I thought about this, so
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think I got to make it go away. We don't really have a. Yeah, we don't have a license.
Can you do like 15 seconds? I thought that was the number I always heard.
No, technically there isn't really like. No, that doesn't come into
the way
play.
to get past it is you have to pitch it down
Mhm.
and then slow it down.
Oh,
So you can open an audio file and name your DAW
yeah.
and then just pitch it down like a little bit and then drag it to,
And then the algorithm won't
down.
find it, or
No, yeah, it
Nice.
won't be able
Yeah.
to find it.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean,
in the Matrix or some shit.
That's right.
yeah. I think for us, it's Bjork seems cool.
Oh, she's so come on. She's
down with bicycles.
She's
We like
cool
her.
personified.
She was a child star in
Yeah,
Iceland.
I
She
remember
was
didn't
like
know that. Yeah.
yeah. She was like on a kid show and stuff. Like she had like a kid show, and she's like a child star in Iceland.
Well, it's also she's like a native Icelander, like ethnically too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Very, and she spent a lot of time in Spain. Yeah, like recorded an entire album, like a couple albums, I think, in southern Spain. She lived like down in Andalusia.
That's
Had
what's
a
beautiful
sweet
about
house.
the Nordic and Scandinavian countries is that the music is always just so amazing.
Mhm.
You know, it's like you think maybe there's something in the water, but no, it's like more of a cultural thing. They actually support people
The arts.
doing music and art
Mhm.
for their lives, like for their jobs and their careers and lives.
Yeah, they see it as like a real thing.
You don't have to like wait tables and then do music on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, I have friends in Europe who kind of and I don't understand the whole system there, but they're always like writing these proposals to get these government grants
Yeah.
to be like movie directors and things like that, and they're fairly successful, but they're subsidized quite generously by the government there.
Mhm.
So like a lot of their films and projects involve government money.
You know, Chicago was doing that for a while. D-Case.
Really?
Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. They were doing one of the freelancers that used to work that I used to work with. He would do that. He'd be like, he'd pitch some just essentially like a vacation. You know, he'd like want to go away for 6 months or something. You know, I'm going to pitch this to DKs and have them pay for it.
Really?
And then they would, yeah, because no one else knew about these grants.
Sure.
So it was like the competition was very slim.
It's cool. I mean, there's plenty of money being spent on other things that are like completely useless. I'd rather go to something kind of
man.
fun and, interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Rock and roll.
yeah, Danny, rock and roll, man. Here
Hey,
on the
I had it. So I had a copy question. Should I ask it now?
Oh
Or
shit!
should we
Bring
save
it.
that for
Bring
later?
it.
yeah.
Okay. So, Danny, do you want to explain what your? Well, maybe I will. So Danny.
I don't even know what's coming.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Well,
Mystery.
So Danny's an expert on
Oh god.
on copy
In,
stuff.
in
So-
quotes. In
So
quotes.
he's the person to ask
Mhm.
any copy related, or
I have many mahogany books.
or language related things. So bicycle related, is it in terms of the
Oh.
proper way? Would you say derailleur or derailleur? Because I have thoughts on this, but I would love to hear like what your thought is on that.
I don't know. So I don't know if there's a correct pronunciation. First of all, obviously it comes from French, so
Right.
we borrow it from French. It's a loan word. It's going to sound quite different in French. I won't assault people's ears by trying to pronounce it in French, but I think in terms of how it's pronounced in
But I'm just saying, like, in terms
American
of
English?
in terms of like writing it, like, how would you
writing is definitely going to be spelled.
like if we're communicating, if we're like doing a blog post on Joe's website,
I
like,
thought you
would
meant
say,
pronunciation wise. Sorry.
oh no, I'm just saying, like, which would you prefer if we were like writing it in a blog post?
So
or
wait, I'm not even aware. There's another version of as opposed to the standard spelling.
So the English version would be Derailer, and then the French
What
word is, Derailleur.
It should
like,
be Derailleur.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know this other spelling. Have I been out of the?
So my feeling and opinion on it is that I would just say it's just Derailer. You would just say
so
Derailer.
how would you spell that then?
Well, just D, like DE, Railer.
How would you spell railer? That's the part.
Railer. Derailer.
Railer. Okay.
Because my thing is that, like, so I had a professor at
This is
DePaul.
fascinating.
Where are you from? Tennessee?
Well, I had a professor at DePaul.
That derailer.
Derailer.
I was just playing.
Derailer.
Okay.
Hold on. Wait.
That's wrong, man.
Wait a second. Hold on.
Derailer.
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 No,
So-
that's
That's
the
wrong.
Google pronunciation.
That's
That's
wrong.
wrong.
That's bullshit.
So here's my reason why I would vote for Derailer versus saying Derailleur
Derailer.
versus saying Derailleur and spelling it the French way is because I had a professor at DePaul. His name was Norman Finkelstein, by the way. Very fascinating guy. And
Straight out of a Woody Allen movie.
anytime that anyone would write amongst,
Oh,
it was immediate. He would like it was like demerits. He would just like immediately mark you down.
well, that's British.
And he would get so mad. And so that's what it was. He'd get so mad. He'd be like, amongst? No, you don't say I'm walking whilst or
Yeah.
thou'st. Like, if you were British, okay, you would say amongst or whilst or whatever.
This isn't Downton
But you're
Abbey.
not British. We're in Chicago. You say among. Among. You'd say while. You would say derailer, not derailleur.
Oh,
This is the
wow.
first I've heard of this.
Interesting.
Now, at first I thought,
Dérailleur.
there you go.
Right.
That's very French.
Dérailleur.
She needs to chill out with the baguettes.
Because it's like, remember the whole panniers versus panier, panois?
Yeah, well, yeah, I got another one for you.
Panniers. You got any panniers?
Hey, you guys sell panniers here?
Mavic or Mavic,
Oh, God.
right?
Ma-
I mean,
Mavic.
there's
I'd
a lot
say
of them in the cycling world. There's a lot of
Mavic. Right.
Mavic
Yeah.
or Mavic.
I'm always supporter of just saying it very American English style.
Really?
Anything.
So, just real quick. So, first of all, I thought you were talking about pronunciation, not spelling.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, I was just saying like preference.
No,
like,
no,
which,
it's cool.
Like which one, like as a copy.
And you said
person.
copy, so
Yeah.
you were dead on. So you're right. So we should be talking about print, spelling, etc. So,
Mm-hmm.
at first I thought I was just going to mention. So the pronunciation, I thought you were saying, like which is correct. I was going to say, well, there's variation. There's regional variation, and people say, in Chicago we say front room, as opposed to front room. And there's all this kind of stuff. Obviously, there's a million examples.
Well, in
of that.
Chicago, it's like, is it L, the letter L, or is it EL, or is it lowercase e? And it's like, yeah.
Garage, one syllable, garage.
yeah.
I'll meet you in the garage. But seriously, so first I thought you meant that. And to my answer to that would be, well, pretty much any way you say it is okay.
Okay.
But in terms of the copy, the spelling, I'm going to say, and I'm usually pretty liberal, but I'm going to say, I think I would insist always on the full standard spelling.
So
I wouldn't,
derail or derail you?
I wouldn't allow derailer in my copy.
Huh.
Unless I put it in quotes or italicize it or in some way was showing I'm using it for variation or some literary effect.
Wait, the
would be
the
my thing.
anglicized or the
Well,
French?
see, I don't even know if it's properly anglicized. I think that just might be more like slangy or
Yeah,
Well,
because
so-
even the bike companies.
But if you look up derailleur, it shows the derailleur on a train rail.
and you're spelling it how? DERAILER.
Derailler. Like rail, like a rail.
Okay.
Derail. Derailer.
Oh, I see. To derail something. Okay.
Right, exactly. So like when you look it up, it shows like the thing that
So
actually
I didn't even
trains
think
to
of that.
different tracks.
Which is obviously what a derailleur
That's what it does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
As our buddy from Seattle was saying,
Yeah.
why isn't it just called a chain mover over, right?
That's right.
He's
Yeah,
like, what's
Corey.
with this bullshit word?
well, that's the thing is that like with cycling, it's a little bit pretentious because it's like you got Derailleur,
Ah,
and then you've got
I Google image it. It
Yeah.
said, "Do you mean derailleur?"
do you mean Derailleur?
corrected my spelling?
yeah.
And you're like, God damn it, Google! No, I'm saying Derailer here, okay?
So anyway, I'm gonna to be the stodgy, formal, quote unquote professional. I would
No,
say-
but it's important that you weigh in on this. Is very important.
I
you weigh in
personally,
on
and
this.
so I'm just defending cycling history and culture, and I would just say derailleur. So the
Okay.
official standard spelling, which we obviously borrow from the French,
yeah,
and then derailleur. I think it's personally like this is just subjective. I feel like it's a little ugly or crass.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a little blunt. It's a little inelegant. So I would like the
okay.
original spelling.
So next one is group set or grupo.
See, I like both, but I like saying grupo, just like casual,
Yeah, I say grupo.
informal.
I like group set.
You like group set.
Yeah, because I think it makes more sense.
If I was talking to SRAM tech support, I would say group set.
Yeah,
But if I were just like hobnobbing with y'all, I'd be like grupo. Like
I mean, I would say like record grupo
Mm-hmm.
because that would be like the proper
Italian.
use of
see,
that.
grupo could also sound
But,
douchey
like-
though. Like you're almost like, what's your grupo? Like,
I know, right? That's
you
why I
gotta be
like group set.
careful. It sounds
Because
broy.
you're like, I want a 105 group set on my new bike.
I just say what kind of parts you got on your bike.
Yeah, right. But if you were going
But
to use the
grupo,
word,
I think
like,
I say grupo, but I guess it's just because I grew up in one of those old school bike shop, and it was always grupo.
Would you? What about the derailleur question, Joe?
Derailleur
The proper
Derailleur?
See, I don't even use the word
Okay.
proper.
or a
because
dur
a dur
for short.
change- change mover
so
over.
the final
I
one.
need a new dur.
So the final one is actually panniers versus panier, panois, whatever.
Panniers.
Panniers.
Pannier.
So whatever the
Panniers.
French would be, panier, whatever. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
the thing that I would think of is most people would understand me. They'll be like, "What? Like bags? right? They're just
pannier.
basically
Eh,
bags."
eh,
What does
part-
that mean?
Part of it.
By the way, can I just say I'm more French than you guys?
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Yeah, no, yeah.
With that name,
For sure.
Latrace.
But I'm
come
also
on,
just
dude.
La
kidding.
Trace.
though.
You're
Yeah, yeah.
Latrace.
Yeah.
Well, I lived in France. How long did you live in France?
None.
Well,
But I
Rest my
had-
case.
he's got-
Rest my case.
But I had a French Canadian student at SAIC.
You're getting
say-
desperate now.
mhm.
No, but I did the IT department at SAIC, and she was like, "Are you Canadian?" I'm like, "No." She was like, "Your name sounds very Canadian." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "It sounds like it's like a fur trapper's name." And I was like, "Oh." So she meant. So she's saying it was like a Quebec fur trapper.
You're like in fucking what's that movie with
And sure enough, we did the Ancestry.com
the
thing.
Revenant? You're like the fur trapper.
Well, we did like the Ancestry.com, and sure enough, the Latrace side did come from Quebec.
Really?
Fur
And then
trapper.
they went to St. Louis, and then they ended up in Charleston.
Now
South
you have a new
Carolina.
nickname. You're the fur trapper.
And then
fur trap.
my grandfather on my dad's side
You are
is actually
dating
from
again,
Charleston.
so-
Double entendre.
Damn. Wow, that was a good one.
Oh, that was a good. You didn't see that coming.
All right, so Pannier.
We're on the north side, but this is actually the south side.
Yeah, it is. It
I'm-
is. You got two Southside guys.
I'm chasing Panniers, man. You know?
Jason
Yeah.
Panniers, yeah. But I like these questions. These are fun. If you have questions, readers, you can write into us at all the usual spots.
Yeah.
Just tag Danny.
Check
on
us
Twitter.
out. I'm all tongue twisted. Check us out on Twitter, on the socials, Bike Shop Society. You will find it on the Googles or Bling, whatever you're into.
Mail at bikeshopsociety.com. You can hit us there. In fact, somebody did reach out to us over,
More reader
over
mail?
the last week on Instagram.
Okay.
Somebody
Trying to hack your site? Was it the Russians or what?
I don't know. I saw a message from somebody there, and his comment was,
Get Danny off the podcast?
No, it's from a guy named Jacob K. Oh, Jacob K.
Oh, he's the fur trapper from Canada.
Yes. Oh, Jacob K. I think he's from Chicago. It looks like
Jakob?
Jakob.
I was perusing his Instagram because we became friends, and I see a lot of pictures from Chicago. So I'm guessing he's from Chicago. But his comment was, "Is there a name for the podcast production style of putting random noise behind large chunks of the episode, or are you guys breaking new ground here?"
I'm not sure
is
if I
that the
get
actual
it, but I
question?
kind of get it.
Yeah, well, I think in our last podcast during the cycling news, the segment.
Oh, the tippity tap, the newsroom.
Yeah, I was playing with a couple of things there, a couple of elements.
It was like All the President's Men, Woodward and Bernstein. Going
yeah.
After Watergate, it was like
yeah, I did
breaking news.
I did a typewriter, and then at some point I did like the teletype machine.
Yes,
so there was two.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, there are two different types. I think I have.
Remember WBBM had that? They would always have that. There you go. And coming in tonight, we have Mark Cavendish.
It sounds very official, right? You like that?
I love it.
So I think he was referring to that's the old school. There's a lot of people who don't know, but that's how you used to get news. There was this
It makes it feel urgent, like this is breaking.
stuff going on, like you're from the newsroom, right?
I mean, this has been done by lots of places historically.
It just sounds like the printing press, just
Yes.
like stacking
Yeah.
papers.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be this thing called a teletype machine, and that's how you would get your news. This thing would just
Or it's like wartime too. You're just like trying to
Just crank them out all
like
the time.
it would
special.
just crank out, and you'd have to run to the teletype machine, pull the sheet, and like read the news.
Well,
And,
teletype was that on the ticker tape, like where you'd have to like read it like off the.
No, it would like print. Remember, like dot matrix.
Imagine like a
printing?
printer just like printing itself, like auto, just like it would just
Gotcha.
print.
Yeah, it would just print. It
What's
was like
what's the one where it's like the one line or the
That was
one?
like the stock ticker.
that's
Or
a
the
stock ticker.
market.
That with that
Yeah.
little ribbon.
Yeah,
Like
the little,
It has
little
all the
ribbon.
tickers,
Yeah,
like
okay.
hood and yeah.
this was like a teletype machine. It was like the size of like a jukebox,
Yeah.
and this thing would just churn and burn.
Yeah,
man. It would just
Walter
all day long.
Cronkite shit. Like,
Yeah, and it would fold over on
when the world was black and white.
yeah. And
So Jacob, to answer your question,
no, this is something that's been done for a long, long time in the radio business. It's something that
I want to know who like created that. Like, hey, like I want to know that moment. Like, there must be a history of that.
well, back like in the 30s and the 30s and 40s, they did like radio theater.
Like, hey,
and
Joe,
stuff.
let's add some urgency to this news.
Well, I think they would just like talk. They would actually talk to somebody in the newsroom, and they would have
they
all
would hear it
these.
in the background.
They would have all these machines going on.
So
in the
then
background.
later, bring it in.
wait. So how do you turn
Our-
it off?
our
Is it the
assistant-
orange one?
Our assistant came
I
by.
could turn it down this way. Oh my God!
We have an
Wait, do you want
assistant.
to just keep it
There's somebody
going?
coming. Yeah, we
Just
could.
keep,
Yeah,
just
we-
keep the teletype going.
Our
Yeah.
intern is coming in.
yeah. The intern is here, and she's bringing booze.
Thanks, intern.
It's the beautiful Miss Sarah. How are you, Sarah?
Thanks, Sarah.
I'm good. You know what? I like doing news from the studio.
Thanks for the beverages, Sarah.
Studio is amazing. Hope
Uh-huh.
you guys are having a great night.
Oh yeah, no,
you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for letting us take over your house. Well, I mean the studio.
Do you guys like Sarah's new hat? That's a new hat she got today.
Yeah. Oh really?
Do we want to plug the place we bought it from?
Oh yes, we do. Cracker Jacks in DeKalb, Illinois, my alma mater. Fantastic place. It's actually a
You went to
wonderful
Northern?
store. I did for undergrad
way.
and grad. Yeah.
Wow,
So
very cool.
that's where we
a
were
nice area.
today, and she has a lovely warm hat now. Thank
Oh,
you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, I'm gonna turn the ticker tape off.
There you
There we
go.
go. Thank you.
Man, Adrian has had enough of the.
He's had enough of
ticker
it.
tape.
Well, you're like, you just don't want to. You don't want Jacob to email you again and say,
No, so we dropped that in during the news last time. It was something that we did, just to give it a little
I
element.
liked
of,
it. It was spice.
Yeah.
It adds some like fabric, some context.
Yeah, and I like having it in the background just as, it's like this is the news segment, right?
It
Just having-
brands it.
It brands
people
it.
know it's coming, and
Yeah.
it builds that. Yeah.
Yeah, my plan is to be something like, hey, Danny, you want to open up the newsroom?
Boom.
And then it's like, oh, there we
you
go. And
People
then,
know what's up.
and then we close the newsroom. All right. And then it's done like that, right? It's
There
like,
you go.
It's open. Newsroom is open.
yeah.
Newsroom is closed.
I feel like that would be like, you're just like talking about whatever, real estate or stock trends or whatever of the week,
Well,
and
that's
just
it.
like
that too. Anytime,
riffing it off real quickly.
anytime there's news involved,
Mhm.
but we were introducing kind of a news segment because he's a cycling reporter.
That's true.
Joe is like a branding production genius. So
Well, I mean,
he's major domo. He's
That's-
here.
that's
He
true.
knows what's going down.
This is some nice equipment here, by the way.
You like that? I have a
Yeah.
it's a real thing. It's
like
like,
real
a
stuff.
recording board. Well, you know what? I want to. You know, I now I feel I'm actually starting to feel a little bit of an obligation because there's actually people out there listening to this thing.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, no, there are.
There are. People will tap me and be like, yeah, I heard some of those episodes.
I
I'm like,
know.
Holy, like, oh shit.
Yeah, and like we're getting messages and people commenting on our production, like the actual
there you go.
production of this thing.
I'm not saying we're bigger than Joe Rogan, but I'm gonna plant that seed in people's brains.
People are taking
So wait,
they're
I've-
taking
I've-
phone calls from us, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll be on the podcast." Sure.
So
why
I have
not?
a question.
To you weirdos.
It's not production related, but
We'll allow it.
Joe, I've got a question for you. So we were talking about Spain earlier.
Yeah, so this way, let's give them a little bit of background. So we started talking about like frame construction, frame building, and to be fair, you and I had a little.
We
bit
were also talking about how Spain real estate.
Oh yeah, we did that during our dinner break.
So Spain is like the new promised land, basically.
Yeah, I've been going there since 1990. Like 1990 was the first, like February of 1990. As soon as I got on the airplane, like my whole life changed. Everything
I can only imagine.
completely changed.
Was that back when you could like smoke on the plane?
Yes, people would smoke in the back. Like they would go. There's like a party going back in the galley in the
Party in the back. That's where
Yeah.
it came from.
Yeah, people would like go in the back and they were like smoking and
Yeah.
drinking, and you'd go back there to
You're
the
just like
bathroom.
it's like Joe with his like ponytail, like I'm going to
It
Spain.
blew my mind, man. People were like partying on the airplane, and it was
That sounds amazing.
yes, it was
Wow.
great. It was great. Actually, like I got it on
Wait, when's the Netflix series of like you going to Spain?
anybody who wants if anybody is out there listening to me, I have I'm ready. I can right off the top of my head I can get
You
the
do like a whole series?
no, I can get the I can get the first year, no problem, right off the top of my head. I could just spit it all out.
So Spain is the promised land, but it has always been the promised land.
It always has been. I mean, it's a place I have a 30-year history with at this point. Like a very long time that I've been going there, and friends and friendships, and riding bikes there and racing. Originally going there to race bikes, and I moved. So
I can only imagine how intense the racing scene was back then.
well,
Because you had to be like, I can only imagine, you had to be probably really fit.
so I don't know if
right?
I don't know if you know this, but the thing that made me go to Spain initially was in 1988, a young Joe in Chicago, on the southwest side of Chicago. I'm watching the Tour de France on like television on like CBS, right? And it actually started in 1987. This guy named there was a big battle between an Irishman, Stephen Roach, and a Spaniard named Pedro Delgado. And there was like this epic battle that year. That was 87. Greg LeMond wasn't in the Tour de France, so it was a wide open Tour de France because Greg LeMond had just gotten shot in the back. That's-
Literally.
yeah, like that spring, he was like,
He was recovering from a.
Wait, I feel like I
hunting accident.
kind of remember that. So was it a hunting accident?
It was his
Yeah.
uncle or cousin or something?
his brother-in-law.
brother-in-law.
Christ.
His brother-in-law in the,
Always the in-laws.
He got shot in the back.
in the fall of '86.
You got a Cheney, man.
yeah.
Lord.
In the fall of '86. So like right after he had won the Tour de France, he was like the belle of the
How
ball.
Awful.
He had just won the Tour de France. So, and this is like October, November of like '86. He gets shot. He gets shot in the
this
back.
is like Michael Jordan going to play minor league baseball. It's like wide, like the NBA championship that year is like wide open.
yeah. So the Tour de France. is
Patrick Ewing's like, all right, we got this.
yeah, everyone's like, everyone's a
Then
contender.
Hakeem Olajuwon was like, nope, we're gonna crush you guys, and then they won.
And there's this big battle at the Tour de France. Like that year, Stephen Roach, the Irishman, he had won the Giro d'Italia. Like like otherwise probably not win it, but that year, since there was no Le Mans, there was no Hinault, it was like the things were changing.
So you're like watching this happen.
I'm watching this happen in '87, right? It's like the Tour de France, and there's like this battle between the Spaniard and this Irish guy, and the Irish guy ends up winning that Tour de France. But the guy who was like putting up a lot of fight was this, the Spaniard named Pedro Delgado.
And there's been like a legacy of Pro Tour stuff in Spain though too, right?
Oh yeah. They got the Vuelta a España, and they've been kind of working their way towards that. They'd actually had a Tour de France champion before that. You know, they'd had a couple of Spanish guys win the Tour de France before that, but he was like the first in a while. And at that time, like if you were into if you were into bike racing in the United States and you wanted to go like race in Europe, everybody would go to like Belgium was like a hot place to go to. Like, oh, you got to go to Belgium and France. Those were the two places.
Well, also, I mean, so just real quick too, like you both grew up with Christian Van de Velde too, right?
This is pre Van de Velde.
Okay.
So this is pre Christian.
But also,
Christian was a
like
little
the Van
bit
de Veldes were also like, there's a legacy there too, right?
Oh, yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
father, and then his grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Like they were all
Christian's,
Pro Tour stuff.
Christian's dad had raced. He was like an Olympian for the United States. He had like competed in the Olympics, and they had a long history of bicycle racing. And
But he's from the southwest suburb or
he's
southwest
like
suburbs.
he lives
Lamont.
like, 20 minutes from the bicycle shop.
Lamont,
Okay.
Illinois. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
Lamont, Illinois.
So, anyways, there's this like interesting pocket on the southwest side of Chicago of people who are
oh yeah.
interested or like serious about
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe going to Europe to
Yeah, Chris Waskevich, which good, like a really good friend of mine, and you know somebody I kind of grew up with, and you know he was like, you know, he had a pretty national presence, you know, and
But let's go back to so you're like
bike
watching
racer.
this on TV happening. So then what happens from there?
so 87 goes by, you know, he loses close second in that Tour de France, but in 88 he wins. 88 he wins,
And who wins?
Pedro Delgado.
Okay,
Pedro
Pedro.
Delgado wins 88. And during that Tour de France, they show a little report from his hometown. You know, like these
like
like little
villages.
vignettes, right? They're
Color
like,
piece.
yeah. You know,
He's like wearing the yellow jersey. He's like being like, oh yeah.
or you know, like as a child, he used to deliver newspapers to earn money to buy a new bicycle, and then they showed like his hometown, and
He's like growing tomatoes or something.
yeah. And they show like, you know, little kids, and they show like some scenes from his hometown. And they do this epic shot, which is in this town called Segovia. There's like this Roman aqueduct, like 2,000-year-old Roman aqueduct, huge, like,
Yeah.
you know, 3 stories high aqueduct. And they shoot this aqueduct, and then they pan down to this group of cyclists, like meeting, and they're like, and every morning, you know, these cyclists meet, and they want to be the next Pedro Delgado, and they meet in his hometown, and I'm like, I'm like, shit. I'm like, I'm going there. And I'm going to go ride with those guys.
I mean, seriously though.
And-
yeah. That's
and
very inspirational.
And I'm like,
wow.
I'm going to go. And so I dropped out of high school, and I got a job.
What?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. Like I drop out of school. I'm like, I'm going to work. I'm going to save some money, and I'm going to go ride with those guys. I'm going to go to that home. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go ride with those guys. And I
This is
did.
like, and you were doing this like back when, I mean, and I'm not saying this in any facetious way, but this is like before cycling was like cool.
Oh yeah, no.
You were like, I want to do this because that was like your dream.
Yeah, it was just
That was Joe's dream.
Yeah, it was just a nutball thing to do. It was cool. I
Yeah.
was into bicycle racing. I had done a little bit of racing here in the United States, right? And like enough to know, like, I'm like, I would go to these criteriums.
But
right?
racing, there is a certain level. I mean, and
Like you could ride in a field. You know how to ride in a pack.
I was gonna say just like real quick, like a little quick interjection, but like cycling, there is a level of like genetic. How would you say? Like you have to be almost like predisposed to it, though.
Well,
right? Or
you know,
no?
that's and I
I
think
don't know.
I think that's the thing in the United States that was always kind of weird. You know, like here in the United, like by the time I was 15, I knew I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player
Right.
for some reason.
That was a sad day.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan had the same thing happen. to
Well,
him.
the Jordan story is actually really sad. We can go into that later, though.
I mean, honestly, by the time I was like 13, I
Yeah.
knew that I wasn't going to play baseball
But cycling,
professionally.
cycling's not the thing where it's. I mean, so I guess let me re-ask this. So cycling, is it the kind of thing that if you just do more, you get better,
No.
or do you have to have a certain level of like
You have to have
innate genetic kind
absolute-
of fitness?
I say if you
level?
want to be at the highest level, you for sure have to have pretty 1 in a million DNA.
Yeah.
So Joe, so you drop out of high school. You're like, I'm going to go to Spain. I'm going to go do this.
Yeah,
And then what happens from there?
He's an OG.
I did it.
So then you did it.
I did
So
it.
you went
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
I'm going to go ride with these guys at the ride among this viaduct and
The aqueduct,
the old like
right next
Roman
to with that little
Empire.
group. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You know what's really great what's really really awesome is that I have the video. I have that that CBS video exists like on YouTube, and I watched that YouTube video.
Was there like a video of you? It was like Joe Gaspar.
No, but there's a YouTube video of that CBS Sports, 1988 Tour de France.
When it was like they were like also watching Greg LeMond. It was like the Greg LeMond eras too. Like
there was a LeMond era. That was the era, but like his whole town was like up in they were like the hometown boy was winning the Tour de France. And so they went to his hometown to do this story. There was also kind of like a doping scandal that year, so there was like kind of revolving around how his town.
So how does a guy from the Southwest suburbs of Chicago get good enough to go to Spain? You were just writing that much?
I was right. You didn't have to be that good. You just buy an airplane ticket and go there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I mean, I was riding. I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was riding my bike.
You still like kick ass.
And I was riding and I was training and I was in the best shape of my life.
Many power bars.
Yes. And, but here's
which one? The peanut butter one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you get, I got myself there. And it's even more interesting than that because like when I get there and
no, I think it is interesting. That's why I'm asking. Is like I want to know. Like I want to like
tell us.
I want to I want to visualize this.
So I get on this airplane. I'm flying to Spain, and on the airplane, there's like these three girls. There's like these three, like really kind of.
I was waiting for this.
Oh, it was great.
Joe and the ladies.
Oh, I love. I was just like, that's why I told you. As soon as I got on the airplane,
you're like, this is the best trip ever.
Well, I heard
you haven't even gotten there.
I heard some stories from Cyclesmithy, but I won't repeat them.
Like, I cannot believe it. I'm like, this is great. And there are these three girls, and they're kind of like, they're a little loud, and they're making a little bit of fuss about themselves, and
of course.
And, and people are kind of like, paying attention to them. They're pretty. They're pretty girls. And at some point, two of the girls get up and they leave one alone. And I'm like, ooh, divide and conquer, right? And so the two of them left. And at that time, there was no internet at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What you had was a book called, it was a group, it was like there were these books called Let's Go. And it would have like the country, like let's go France, let's go Portugal.
Travel guides.
Yeah, it was a travel guide. And
those were great. Those were good.
Well, then after that, it was like Lonely Earth or Lonely Planet.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's Rick Steves, and now there's a million.
Steves, right?
But it was Let's Go Spain, and I had this book, right? And it had like
I love this.
all these hotel rooms. It had like where to stay, and I knew I was going to stay in Madrid for a week.
Here's the embassy if you lose your passport.
Yeah, it's like exactly that. It had like.
Don't go to this cafe.
Don't go here. This place is good.
Go to this one.
Yeah, go to this restaurant. And I was going to stay in Madrid for, like my plan was like get to Spain, stay in Madrid for a week.
Wait, with what money though?
I had money. I'd stopped. I'd worked for like a year and a half.
Worked and saved for this?
I'd saved some money and I had a pocket full of cash.
Yeah, you didn't like,
were you on a team at this point though?
No, I had nothing.
Just to be clear, you weren't just like jumping on a plane like, it's not like you didn't have a plan. You like saved up. You had some idea.
I had money and I had Let's Go.
You knew
and
what
I
you
knew
wanted.
and I knew the town that I wanted to go to. But that's
what I'm saying.
That was it though.
Those are pretty. Those are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I had a rough direction, but I had lied to my parents. So I told my parents that I had this host family waiting for me in Spain.
Oh my God, you bad boy.
Yeah. So my parents thought I was going to go join.
Your lovely, hardworking parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny because
Adios mio.
I found out later that my dad had gone to my grandmother to ask my grandmother if it was a good idea to let me go. But, I was like, I don't know, I was 18 years old or so at that time, 18, 19.
Yeah.
And,
but you had your bike. What kind of bike did you have at the time?
A Derosa, a monkey butt.
Is this the one that you had talked about? The pink one?
The pink one.
Oh,
yeah.
What a gorgeous bike.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's the one I saw him riding in Oak Lawn.
When you first met him, yeah.
And I was like,
so that was a bike that you knew that like.
I had a nicer.
That was like a nice bike.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I had a beautiful bike. I had a beautiful bike because I had also been working at the bike shop. I had been working at Turin Bike Shop.
Do you still got it?
No, that bike got stolen the year I got back.
What?
Yeah, it was stolen. But it was replaced by the Eddie Merckx that I have now.
Okay. So you're on the plane. So you're going. You've got the Let's Go.
I have the Let's Go.
You're talking to these.
So I see these
beautiful women on the plane.
I see these girls. I'm like, I need to know where to stay. I've got like this whole list. I'm like, I'm going to ask that girl. Like, yeah, this is a good way to like talk to somebody, right? So I go over to this girl and I ask her, I'm like, look, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Spain. I've never been there before. I've got this Let's Go book. Look, there's this whole list of
Are you speaking in
hotels.
Spanish or English?
Yeah, that's why I chose Spain, was because I did speak a little bit of Spanish. I didn't speak Belgian or French.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, Spain is perfect, man. I speak Spanish. I like this Pedro Delgado guy. I want to race bikes. Nobody goes to
amazing.
Spain.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go to Spain.
That's so cool.
And so I go over to this girl and I ask her, you know, I'm like, hey, where should I stay? Right. And she's like, oh, and let me look. And she starts looking. She's like, oh, stay at this hotel. This is close to our house.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, oh, this was great. And she's like, yeah, I live close to here.
Like very serendipitously.
And she's like, stay here. And she writes her phone number at the top. I still have the book somewhere. And her phone number, she writes her phone number at the top of the book. And she's like, here, call us. You know, when you get settled in, call us. And, you know, we'll take you out in the town. You can come out with us. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. This is great.
I mean, you're not even there yet. You're not even in
No.
Spain. It's already like going
It's
so
like you're in an
well.
80s movie.
Wow.
And I'm a nerdy bicycle racer for the
You're like,
Southwest
this
side
is
of Chicago.
amazing.
They're like,
This is
he's
wow.
cute.
I'm like, this is it. This is
This is like the 80s movie that
That's pretty
should have been
sick.
made.
I'm like, this is my place. This is like, I love this place. I'm not even here yet. I'm still in the air on the way.
I'm
on the
still
way
eating
there.
peanuts and drinking ginger ale.
So
I'm just thinking like, I'm just like at that point, like I'm on the plane. I just start smoking cigarettes and be like, this is great.
well, you know what? Okay, I will.
Open up the lungs for the racing.
That's right.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna forego. I'll save some of the details for later on. Maybe we'll let this. You know, this is. Hopefully, we'll do this podcast for a long time.
We don't want to
But-
get you in trouble, Joe.
But let me tell you that in the first week that I was in Spain, at some point, 3 or 4 days into this journey,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say by the fourth day, I wrote a letter to my parents.
Was it in the form of a poem?
No, it was in case I died.
What?
Yes,
Oh.
because I was partying
Oh.
harder than I had ever partied in my life.
Did you send the letter?
No, I wrote it just in case they found my dead body,
Oh my
like in a hostel, and in this hotel room. I'm like, you know, I started blowing through all the money I had. Like this, you know, I had enough money. I had budgeted to be there for 6 months, and I was like, I was spending money. I was,
Oh my
you know,
god!
like so this group of girls that I met on the airplane, it turned out that they were a rock band from Madrid.
No shit.
And they were flying back from, their trip had started in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
The plane had stopped in Chicago to pick up more people, and then they were flying to Madrid. And they were kind of like a relatively well-known band, girl band in Spain. And they were recording an album in Los Angeles.
What was the name of the band?
Chicas.
Chicas?
With like 3 or 4
Like
S's.
girls?
Chicas, girls. Hmm. And at that time they had kind of like a single playing on the radio. And
Wow,
when
man.
I, you know, of course I called them when I got settled in, like they said.
Mm-hmm.
And I met up with them, and they were a well-known band. So like they got like red carpet
That
treatment
worked out really well.
anywhere they went, like bars and clubs and stuff.
That's back when like you had to, if you wanted to stay in touch, you had to call people. Like you'd be like,
Yeah,
here's
yeah,
my
yeah.
phone number. You have to call me now.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to call me now. Yeah, like there was no
You're not
text.
just like follow my Instagram.
No,
you
no,
know,
no,
like,
none of
yeah.
that. None
Who's
of
the
that.
band?
That's them. yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's like Chicas with like 3
I
S's.
think people don't realize it, that like in Europe, people just like partying and like the lifestyle of
Mhm.
like hanging out and going out is like very much a thing though too. Because I
Mhm.
remember going to Berlin for the first time when I was in college,
Yeah,
and that was the first time that I had actually stayed out until the sun came up,
yeah.
and that's like just what they did.
It's what you do. Yeah.
And I remember just being like, oh, so tired. Like we're like on the on the metro, like
Mhm.
going back to her place. I'm like so tired, just like, oh God. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I guess. But then we like get out of the subway. No way, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Danny just pulled up Chicas.
Yeah, that's like that was their hit song, Noches de Acapulco.
It looks like chick ass.
Yeah, chick ass.
Chic ass.
Yeah, with 3 S's.
But
They're
yeah,
so
but I
cool.
remember in Berlin the first time I went, and it was like a thing where it was just you just stay up until the sun comes. You just stay out until the sun comes up.
They party.
That's like a cultural thing though.
They go out late, but then they stay out late.
Well,
They stay out all night,
and
like literally all night long.
Here, if you're younger, you would go out you go out like 8 or after dinner, and you're home by like midnight or maybe 1.
But you know what's crazy? That Chicago,
they go out, like, at
Chicago is
10.
a late night city in the U.S.
Yeah, it's not the best.
Chicago is
4
a
o'clock,
very late. The 4 a.m. bars.
yeah,
You don't have that in L.A. You don't have that in Denver. You don't have that in most other
Yeah,
cities.
Chicago 4
Right.
and
It's
5.
like New York and Chicago. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, in Spain, they would run ads on the radio. Like you would hear these ads. They're like, if your parents don't let you stay out late, wake up early and hit the after hours clubs.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I would be at these after hour clubs in Spain. So it'd like, once the clubs would close, you go to these places like 7 o'clock in the morning. And about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, these
Wait, hold on.
kids-
Is this before or after you wrote the letter to your parents?
Oh, this is after. This is after. This is after my race.
And by the way, what was in the letter? I'm just curious. Like,
It
what
was just
in the
like, I'm
letter?
sorry. It was like, I'm sorry. I knew I.
Do you still have it? Oh, that would be great.
But
I wouldn't want to read it. See, I think it
No,
would
that
be-
should
it
go
would
on
make
the
me feel
that
a
should
little
go on the
icky.
socials and the website.
I know I have a few letters like my dad wrote to me when I was there. Like,
but they
there's
didn't
some
know.
cool
Like, you
stuff.
dropped out of school. You're like going to Spain. They think that something else is going on.
Yeah.
But then you're like, actually,
Oh well,
there's
not much peddling going on.
that first week was it was crazy. And like finally.
Yeah.
I had been partying that week, blah, blah, blah. And it was only a week there. It was only like, 5, 6 days in Madrid.
And this is at your peak physical.
Yeah, I was in good shape getting there. I had gotten there and I'd been riding and training and stuff. And then those 5 days, I didn't do anything but party. And I was up all night long.
You were
and I
doing
was-
the Jan Ulrich.
which at peak cyclists you can't be doing. It's like swimming.
no,
You can't do that
just
stuff.
stop. You can't just like
stop
pull
doing
the
it.
emergency brake and
Right.
like start all of a sudden
Start
start
partying and
drinking
whatever.
and
Yeah.
smoking for the first time in your life. Really, like at that level, like just rock.
Eating
By
a
the
bunch
way,
of-
I have
Ramon.
I have similar stories we can say
Yeah.
another time about from the band and touring stuff.
Oh, yeah.
touring era. You
Yeah.
know, like
Oh, that's right, Mr.
From-
Rife.
Oh yeah,
from the Midwest emos.
I don't have a rock story. I feel so sad.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. But and so there's like 4 or 5 days into this journey, I'm at this park. The Parque del Norte, the Park of the North in Madrid. And I'm sitting there like on this little hill. I'm like, middle of the day. I'm by myself. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, and I see an Once team car,
Whoa.
bright yellow Once,
Nice.
which was a cycling team at that time, Adrian.
Yeah,
Like
they were the biggest.
they were the biggest. Driving, going down the street.
They were from that area of Spain.
They were based in Madrid.
Once it was a national bank, right?
Once was the lottery of Spain,
lottery, okay.
the blind lottery of Spain, and I see one of their.
So you're just like sitting on this park bench and you just happen to see
I'm
it
just
going
sitting on the
by.
park and I just see it go down the street. like,
Okay.
shoot down the street.
No way.
Yeah, I see like one of these like yellow cars, like team car, an actual team car, and I'm
Which is like that's like why you went there in the first place.
to ride bikes. I went there
Right.
to race bicycles, and I see
Yeah.
this car go, and I'm like, holy shit! And I run, and now I'm in a park.
Uh-huh.
And I can't get out of the park because it's got like one of these giant iron fences. So it's not like I could run into the street and chase
It's like
this
San
car.
Francisco. They have these like huge fences to
Yes.
keep all the homeless people out.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
no homeless people.
So it's like
Sorry.
this 12-foot like iron fence. I got to run along the fence and like trying to keep up with this car. And then the car turns down the street and I got to run to the end of the park.
You
and
don't have
get
your
out
bike
the-
with you?
No, I'm
So you're
just
like running.
I'm running. I'm like
You look like a crazy person. They're just like,
Crazy.
who is this guy?
crazy, and I'm like chasing this car through the streets of Madrid, right? Like, oh my God. And I'd see it like down the street and
Run, Forrest.
I'd run for it and I run down the side street where I see how it turn and I lose it, right? And I start just like walking down these side streets and I'm looking around and I find the car parked like in a courtyard. Like I'm looking down and I see it parked there.
Mm-hmm.
And I see someone come out of the building, go into the car, and I'm like, hey. I like yell to the guy, I'm like, hey. And this dude comes over to it's like, hey, yeah, how can I help you? I'm like, I've come from America to race bicycles.
You're just like, where's the party tonight, guys?
And the guy's like, what? I'm like, I'm here to race bicycles. I've come all the way from America to race bicycles.
You have no idea. I just dropped out of high school.
Yeah,
I told my parents I'm gonna die.
I was on the plane. There was this band.
I met these girls, and I'm like,
I've been partying.
oh my god, I gotta go to Segovia. I gotta meet the guy who won the Tour de France. And he's like, what?
It's like you're in your own movie.
Yeah, and I'm like, and he's like, wait, what? And he's like, and I'm like,
Wait, what's this guy look like, by the way?
he just like he's like one of those. He's like one of the team helper.
I just
guys.
imagine the guy wearing the sunglasses that have
Like
fade.
fit, clean cut,
Like the
polo
faded
shirt.
Clean cut polo shirt
Yeah.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a team guy. Like a
They all
swine-
look the same. I don't
Yeah,
mean
they
that in a bad way.
They have
but-
a certain look. They have like kind of like they have athletic builds because they were usually
Yeah.
like bike racers.
like
and they-
thinner,
yeah, they were athletes.
clean cut,
Mhm.
business like. They
Yeah,
got
So,
work
so
to
what
do.
did he say?
And he's like, slow down. What do you? He's like, and I'm like, I finally get it out. I'm like, I want to race bicycles here. I've come here to live and go to Segovia. I was wondering if you knew anybody there, or if I, like, who do I talk to when I get there? He's like, and he's like, look for this group. And he's
Ooh.
like, and he gives me,
Man, I feel like this is like such like an RPG.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just like choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
You know?
and he gives me the name of this club, 53 by 13, like 53 13, like a
Dude,
gear.
Gear
It's like-
ratios, yeah.
like a huge gear. He's like, look for this club.
my
He's like, this
God.
is the club from Segovia. This is Pedro Delgado's club. This is
This is the spot. You're
yeah.
like,
He's
this
like,
is the final.
he's like, go look for these guys.
Wow.
These guys could probably help you. That's his club. They follow him to all the bicycle races. If you're going to Segovia, go look for him there.
That's crazy.
So the next
Wow.
day, I'm like, okay, I'm running out of money. I can't, like, if I stay here, I'm going to die. I can't, like, I'm not going to
This
have
is
any
it.
money left. Like,
this is like your final.
I'm here
hurrah.
to
Yeah.
ride. I'm here to race bicycles. I really got to go. And
Yeah, yeah.
so I get on a train and I go to, this is a Friday. So I go to Thursday, Friday, and I go to Segovia, like without all my stuff, without all the
How
bike.
far is Segovia?
About an hour and at that time it was about 2 hours in train,
Okay.
so,
So not super close by.
no, it's like on the other side.
It's like going to Milwaukee from Chicago.
Yeah, it's kind of like going to Milwaukee. Yeah, it's like a mountain. There's a mountain range in between, and at that time, that train would stop everywhere. So it was probably longer than it should be. It's probably like 100K, like 60 miles, 70 miles direct in a car. But on the train, it's like it was a 2 hour trip at that time. And now they have like a high speed train, and you're there in less than an hour.
That's right. It's like
But back in those days, you had like this old train, and
Couple hour
and
ride.
it would finally stop in Segovia after a couple of hours. So I get off this train, and I'm walking down the street through Segovia, and at that time, Pedro Delgado was huge. Like, he was a hometown.
By the way,
hero.
Danny's fact checking everything Joe keeps
Uh-huh.
saying, and everything checks out.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything keeps checking out.
Yeah, no, this
This
is
is all like
legit.
real stuff.
I
Yeah.
believe it. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. I want to like see like pictures.
Yeah,
like,
no. The club is still, it's not as strong as it was at that time. So like 5313 at that time was like, those guys are now in their 50, like they're in their 60s now. Like the guys that were running that
So
club.
when you hooked up with these guys, like, were they kicking your ass, or were you like just as good?
Some of the guys were older, so I was able to ride with some of those guys. But no, I was like, I needed a lot of work. So I have a good story about that. But like the when I get to Segovia, I'm walking down the street and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I have no idea where I'm going. And I start walking down the street, and
You're originally from Orland Park, or where?
I'm southwest side of Chicago, like near Midway Airport.
Yeah. So you're in Segovia, Spain.
Segovia, Spain, the hometown of the guy who won the Tour de France in 1980.
And you're from the Midway area,
Uh-huh.
and you're just Yeah. Like
I'm
you're
like,
just there.
I'm just there.
Yeah.
I'm walking out. I saw this thing on television a year and a half before, and now I'm in this
Right.
town. Like
But you did it though.
Yeah,
You followed your dream.
I've inserted myself into that photo, right? I decided I want to go
That's
go
amazing.
there.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking down the street and I have no idea where I'm going. Like I have no idea. Like I don't know where to go. The guy told me go look for 5313. I'm like, where's 5313? How do you find a club in a town, right? And I start noticing that certain businesses would have a poster of Pedro Delgado in their front window because he was a hometown hero. I'm like, oh, well, they're a fan of Pedro Delgado's. I'm going to stop there. So I'd stop like in the grocery store. I'm like, I see you have a picture of Pedro Delgado there. Do you know where I can find him?
It's like seeing a Jordan poster
Yeah, it's like seeing
in the Foot Locker. You got his number. I need to talk to him.
They'd look at you like, what are you
They have
crazy?
3 heads.
But
That's actually a really good reference. You're like, yeah, like you're some kid from
yeah.
Europe ending up in Chicago, and you're like, "Where's Michael Jordan?"
Where's Michael? And that's what I did. I was like doing that. So I'd keep walking down the street. I'd
They're
see
just
another.
like, they're just like, go to Highland Park,
Yeah.
and then
He has a house he can't
he's
sell.
got this house. It has the 23 number on it. You
He can't
miss
sell
it.
the fucking thing.
Yeah, so I'd see a poster and I'd stop at that store and everybody would be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Finally, I will go into this auto parts store and I walk in and I'm like,
And it's his dad.
I see you have a picture of Pedro Delgado. You wouldn't happen to know where I can find him because I've come all the way from Chicago. I want to race bicycles and I'm here to meet him and like try to race bikes with him. And he's like, well, I don't know where he lives, but you might want to try the bicycle shop in town. And I'm like, really? I'm like, where's that?
Genius.
And he gives me directions to the bicycle shop. And so I find, and it was the bicycle, at that time, the bike shop was pretty tucked away, but he gives me pretty decent directions to get there. And I find my way to the bike shop, the bike shop in town. I get to this bike shop. Now I'm coming from like Chicago and I had worked at like Turin bike shop in Chicago. And we had like sweet stuff. It was a, pretty cool bike shop and all sorts of nice stuff. And I get to this shop and it's like this like little tiny, like
The size of this room?
the size of this room, maybe a little bit longer than this room, as wide as this room that we're in, maybe 12 feet.
Was it like dark and just?
It was a little dark and it was just this long, it was just
I've
like
been
this.
into a million of these places.
This was the main, like the size of this room that we're in, maybe 12 by
And this is in
15.
where is this at
This is
again?
in Segovia.
This is in Segovia.
It's
Okay.
in Segovia, and like the front part of the bike shop was about this size, and then the back room was like half this size with a work stand and tires and all sorts of stuff. And it was like this tiny little.
This like shows you like this is like
hole.
where this guy like
Yeah,
this is like his shop.
this is his shop,
Right.
and I go in, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm here to race bicycles," and I meet the owner of the bike shop, and he looks at me and he kind of like looks me up and down. He's like, "Wow." He's like, well, I can't give you anything for racing bikes. I mean, I don't know, whatever. We have a team, and if you want to race, you can hang out, and I'm like, yeah, that's all I want. I just want to race bikes, And I'm like, and Pedro Delgado, he's like, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I know Pedro, and he started here in the bike shop. Like this is the bike shop that he learned how to race bikes from me. Like I started him in the sport. I'm like, oh man, I'm in the right place.
Well, I'm sure it's like such an eye opener too, because like you see this guy on TV in Chicago, and then you realize you get there and you're like, this is just any other small shop, like any other, like it could be anywhere.
Oh, it was tiny. It was like this
It's like
little
this
bike
tiny
shop.
little.
It's like when I learned the magic of like a tiny bike shop that I realized I'm like, oh my God, you don't need a lot to have like a, I mean, there's like all these professional, it turned out later on, I got to know everybody in this big club and it was all coming out of this little bike shop. And it turns out that the guy who owned the bike shop had raced for the national team, like in the Olympics in '72. He'd raced with Cass he'd done the Tour de France like 6 or 7 times with the Cass team, like a legendary Spanish cycling team. And he had
Wait, can I do a quick timeout?
Yeah,
Danny,
yeah, yeah.
Danny pulled up a photo. Can you explain this real quick?
It's Delgado.
Oh, that's Delgado.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's.
This is such an amazing photo because he's wearing the yellow jersey.
Mm-hmm.
He's very tan on the arms because you can tell he's like
Mm-hmm.
up in the mountains,
Just
riding a lot, just
ripped.
getting a lot of sun. No helmet because that's just kind of how. I
No
mean,
glasses.
Yeah.
especially in the mountains, you don't. I mean, why do you need a helmet? You're not gonna like.
Nobody wore
You're
helmets.
not
in
gonna
those days.
crash. Like you're just.
There
Kinda,
was a rule at
just
one point. So
climbing, you know?
they started phasing in helmets,
Mhm.
especially after Andrei Kivlev died at Paris-Nice.
Mm.
But what they did with the helmets, before they made you wear them all the time, you were allowed to take them off on the final climb
Mm-hmm.
at the
Yep.
start. And Sam App, the famous journalist, he always said what really sucked was when helmets and those glasses became ubiquitous, because now you can't tell who's who.
Who's who?
And he always hated that. And you,
Well,
you can't see them grimace. You can't see their eyes.
Well, because like Greg LeMond had like a very look.
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
He had like such like a
Yeah.
Reaganomics like
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
aesthetic, you know?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
great, like when it came in, like that was a fun era. But his point was just like everyone looks like a robot now.
So you hook up at this club, you go to the club. We're
I go
going
to the
back
bi-
to Joe's
So
story.
I go back
Yeah.
to I go to the bike shop.
Yeah.
I meet the guy. Turns out that the club is run out of that place.
Pretty much right. Did they give you a kit? Like what happened? Like,
No, so so there's a meeting. So this is going back.
There's
to
a
your question.
meeting.
like a
So
team club.
There's like
meeting?
a club meeting, right?
Nice.
So this is like after I finally like moved to the town, got settled in. You know, they're like,
Would
oh,
you get like a
know,
little apartment?
yeah.
rent a
I was
room?
thinking kind of like in a bed, like a boarding
Yeah,
home, you know.
I've done those.
And so I got like a room at this
with
at
your
this house.
with your Pink DeRosa.
Yeah, I had my
Nice.
all my bike stuff in there,
Nice.
and so there was like this, you know, like I was gonna ride for the team out of the bike shop, so the bike shop team, you know, and so there's this little meeting, you know, they're handing out where they're gonna hand out the jerseys that day, and you know, kind of talking about plans for the year, and you know, some of the objectives. And they're going around, they're handing jerseys out, and I'm really excited because, you know, like I get a bag with a jersey.
Because you're like in Europe, you're living
I'm
the
in Europe.
dream.
I'm like, oh my god,
That's pretty sick.
I'm at the team meeting. I
Yeah.
get my jersey,
That's huge.
and you know, like they're talking, and I'm like looking at my jersey, and I look at my jersey, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, oh man, this jersey's a little small for me. I'm like, oh man, this jersey's a little small.
Like I partied a little too hard.
yeah, I'm like,
here.
oh, this jersey.
Too much hamon.
I'm like, it's a little small, and
Too
so,
many smokes, man.
So the
I gotta quit
conversation,
smoking.
so the you know, like the little meeting is over, you know, and they stop talking. I walk up to the owner of the bike shop, who's also kind of like running the team and all that stuff. I'm like, hey, thanks for the jersey. You know, this is great, but I think I need another size. I need the size up. And he looks at me square in the eye, and he's like, no. He's like, the jersey is not too small. You are too big for the jersey.
Yes, yes. Old school.
Yes. He's like, when you can fit into that jersey, you can start racing.
Thanks for listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email us at mail@bikeshopsociety.com. If you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can look us up at Bike Shop Society. That's it. Get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Now, back to the show. Goodbye.
So I messaged Danny and Joe the other day because after the whole Cyclesmithy party, I've been getting back into cycling, which has been a really good thing because it meant a lot to me. And it's, you know, we talked about this, I think last time, like mental health wise, cycling it can be a really good thing, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Fitness level in terms of being in Chicago where you just don't get vitamin D.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, anyways, I started looking into thinking like, all right, I'm now making a real salary for the first time in my life. I'm
Yeah.
36 years old.
Yeah. You're a
Which-
youngin'.
Yeah, well, I'm a youngin', but 36, I remember when I first started working at Village Cycle, we had one of our key holders training me. His name is Dino Rizzo. Super nice guy.
Good Irish name.
Italian.
I was joking.
Yeah. But the time he was 36 and I was like 21, I remember being like, oof, 36. You work at a bike shop? I mean, I'm not saying it's out loud. I'm just thinking like, oh, that's
come
really,
on, man.
I'm thinking like, that's
Come
really,
on.
I'm like, that's really old, you know?
Oh, come on.
And so anyways,
Where's your walker, buddy?
I'm
I
still
know.
in a bike shop. Be careful.
well, I know.
But
Anyways,
you own it. It's a little different.
yeah, but I'm 36 now. So I'm now as old as Dino was.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, I'm at the point now where I'm getting a real salary.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind
Well,
of
you were
ready.
eyeing that water for
So I'm thinking like I should get like my final bike,
your forever
So-
bike.
my forever bike. Not to get all like morbid and like sad
man,
and
it's
shit,
okay,
but
it's
so
okay.
but my mom died at 59 years old,
Oh, wow.
and then my uncle, her brother, died at like maybe 50.
So young.
I can't remember, like
So
pretty young.
So young.
So I'm thinking like this could be it. Like I don't know, like I should get my forever bike because maybe I
never
have
know.
another 15, 20 years left. I don't know.
You never know. I don't
know.
know. I think that's great. I think it's cool to use that like kind of inspiration, like to jump.
So-
I've done that myself, and
So I messaged
What are you
these guys
thinking,
and I'm
man?
like, well, should I spend $5,000 on a custom bike? And then Joe's like, well, why don't you could spend, for $5,000, you could go to Spain and learn how to build one yourself.
yeah,
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, like what an amazing idea. I would have never,
it's a great.
I would have
it's a
never
It's a
thought
great
of that.
idea.
Yeah.
I would have never, ever in a million years thought of that idea. But planting that seed
Mm-hmm.
is making me even more excited about the idea of cycling because, so as a journalist, we think about the why.
Yep.
Like the why. Why does it matter? Like, why is it important? Why does it matter? Who cares? And the idea of going to Spain
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to build a frame.
Because
There's a lot of whys. There's a lot of whys
Yeah.
because you could go because maybe you just want to learn the craft. Maybe you want your final that's like your bike,
Yeah,
or maybe because you just want a vacation and the experience, or maybe all of the above.
like a vision quest. It's like this.
Yeah,
like, this
exactly.
great. You have a goal, but there's so much that goes with it. You go to another country. You're taking a class, which is a new thing in and of itself. You're making your own bike. You bring that bike home,
Mm-hmm.
and then you ride it for years and get so much pleasure and enjoyment.
Yeah, and bringing
Totally.
bringing it all the way back around to even like the current state of bicycle shops. It's like you can buy a bike anywhere these days. Yeah, you don't even have to go to a bike shop to buy a
Yeah.
bicycle. You can order it online, but most of the
Buy it from your phone.
yeah, I think people coming into bicycle shops now, they just want a story. They want the interaction. They want to know who they're getting their bike from. And really, what's the difference?
Well, most bike shops are like you now, where it's like by appointment only.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like Logan Square. There's a cargo family bike shop where it's like
Yeah.
by appointment only.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's changed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my first choice to do appointment only. A lot of that is due to like just not having staff this year. But there's a history of shops existing that way. I've known like one man bike shops that have pulled that off, that have like spent 15, 20 years like that.
Well, let's just be real. Like Mark never cared if anyone quit because he was just like, "F you all. I can just run this myself."
Yeah, I'll just
Well,
run.
he was punk rock.
And he
yeah,
used to. He would say that. He's like, "You know what? You all want to quit and leave? That's fine.
Fine.
Do it.
I'll just
I'll just run it myself."
Go see what happens.
because he was that. He was the one man bike shop.
He's
And-
punk rock.
so those guys have inspired me over the years. I'm like this year, I'm like, screw it. If I can't have good people working here, people I
Yeah.
can rely on, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to go by appointment only.
Dude, but Mark always let you know at the back of it.
Yeah.
He would always remind you.
He's
like,
an iconoclast. He's a special
He's like,
guy.
He's like, I don't care you. I don't need you. I don't need you.
I could do everything by myself.
He is a gem.
Yeah,
But
he's a unique dude. And so, but like going back to the whole bike thing, it's like you just, the story is just as it's an important part of all of it these days. Like, where do you get that bike from, or and how's that bike made, and who's making that bike? Because, I mean,
Right.
one steel bike to another steel bike to another steel, they're all really nice. You're basically buying.
They're all really nice.
You're
yeah.
buying a work of art. Is basically what it is. Like a custom made frame.
personalized, yes.
It's a personalized. It's the guy who makes
It's like
it.
you got your trapper keeper and you can just make it really cool the way you want. But seriously, what you said was really special. I really like that. And I think it gives you some sort of, I don't know, source, like some inspiration, like to go do something cool. But how amazing would it be to go through that whole process, that journey, the literal journey and the metaphorical journey, and then you come back and then you have this bike.
Then you have it.
And you're sitting there hanging out with someone over coffee one day, and it's like, hey, what bike is that? And it's like, I made this bike.
Well, that's
in Spain.
right.
I picked the color, the painting. This is my dream bike.
I
It
built
rides.
it.
It rides beautifully. I got the parts exactly that I want on it. It's my forever bike. Like that's kind of cool.
Well, that's my why.
After I ride a better bike versus a less good bike, like a lesser bike,
Yeah.
I feel like I want to ride that bike more.
Well, this is why I'm excited about going to Spain to building my own.
Yeah, I'll go
Because-
too. I'll go with you.
You want to go?
I'll go. Let's do it.
Okay. This is why I'm excited, because the smoothest bike I ever owned, the most, like literally the best riding bike I ever had, was this old piece of shit DeRosa I bought on Craigslist for like $300.
Ooh.
And I kind of did like a commuter build on it. I had like a little like commuter bar on it. And it was a fast, it was an actual like old racing frame.
Right. Well, steel is real. I mean, that little single speed there is steel, and that thing rides beautifully. I keep the pressure a little bit lower than I might normally ride, and that bike rides so nice. And if I want to get on it, I can get on it. And steel, man.
Hello, I'm Katie Lonke. You're listening to the Bill's Shop Society podcast.
All right, Joe, you ready for some news? This is Walter Cronkite.
All right.
All right, so
we're opening up the newsroom here.
just got a few news items here for
Yeah,
you,
let's do that.
Joe and AJ. So Remco Evenepoel, who is the new hot name in cycling.
He is hot.
I think we have to admit he's one of the best riders on the planet.
Young
He
kid, right? How old is he?
He's fucking. Is he 14, 15? No,
Yeah,
he's a young guy.
That young?
No, I'm kidding. He's 20 something, but he's very young.
He's young. He almost
Wow.
died.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, he almost died. He had a very bad crash, but he won the Vuelta this Vuelta a few months ago in dominant fashion. And
Let's hold it up. Let's take a look real quick, Danny. Let's see it.
This is just a little quick news post about him. He's the hot shit in cycling, so
Is that him right there?
that's him winning the Vuelta.
That's amazing, because that photo could have looked like it was from 10, 20 years ago.
Yes. But the news peg here is that Remco, it's not official, Joe, because we like to be very careful with our news gathering and judgment here. But it is hinted pretty strongly from a teammate and some others that he will ride the Giro next year.
And skip the Vuelta.
So
Or skip the Tour.
I don't know about he would. It sounds like he won't do the Tour.
Mm-hmm.
He may do the Vuelta, but it looks like he will do the Giro. So the course I've noticed over the past decade or so is when riders are coming up, they will do the Vuelta, Giro, and then the Tour. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but I don't know. That came across my radar, and I'm kind of excited. I think he would be a nice spicy meatball to throw into that Giro d'Italia.
So, oh wow. I mean, that's an interesting tactic. I guess that's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
Because going into the Tour when you're that young, can be a little bit interesting because we have Pogacar, and he obviously has won it twice, super young. But it can put a lot of pressure on a guy, and some people think they shouldn't rush in, and he's got time too.
Although it seems to me like he's been around forever, though.
It seems like it,
Like
but he
it-
hasn't. But yeah.
I mean, like to me, it's like, oh, Evenepoel, he seems like an old man already compared to like some of these young guys that already
I was
won
gonna
the
say,
Tour.
what do you guys think? Like when does someone peak for like pro tour cycling?
It depends on when you're,
age-wise?
so like 20 years ago, you'd say like 28, 29,
28,
30, like
29.
late 20s.
Yeah.
These days, it seems like it's getting younger and younger. Like by the time they're 30 years old, they're probably old men now.
But it's also great. You're right, 100%. Because it used to be the peak was like around 30, like between 27 and 32 or something.
Yeah.
Like that's when Indurain.
That's also like
Lamont,
when you
all
like,
those guys.
fully develop muscle wise.
Well, that's what they used to-
That's what they used to say. But now it's changing.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is you're right, Joe. I think it is going down younger, but at the same time, a lot of riders are riding longer and they're retiring later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But
Well, the guys that you're talking about retiring later are guys like Valverde, right? But this generation right now, like we'll see. I don't expect to see Pogacar and those guys racing past their mid-30s.
I don't either.
I'm
I just, you
I-
know,
I don't see them going past 30.
I just-
I don't see them going
I
past
just-
30, 32.
I just asked because I feel like most like sports and athletics are getting to that level where I remember in the mid 90s when I loved NBA, like the peak of NBA, like Chicago Bulls and New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers and Houston Rockets. And I mean, every NBA team was amazing, but like a high scoring NBA game in the 90s was like in the 90s, you know?
Right.
But now like NBA games,
125.
120, 130s.
Well, so
So it's like the level of like it has gotten way in terms of you know, like
Everything's getting bigger.
everything's
longer,
getting like bigger
crazier.
and
Yeah,
crazier.
yeah.
Exactly.
faster,
Totally faster,
Sandier-
stronger,
higher
bigger.
scoring.
Well, you know,
yeah,
and-
exactly.
And here's the thing: is that back in 1990, for me to learn about bicycle racing and training, I had to like get on an airplane, fly to Europe, go to a bike shop, find the guys, and then like hear secondhand from somebody who heard something,
Yeah.
and like then I would get training advice, right? And these days, you go to YouTube.
Right.
Any kid can go
That's
to YouTube
true.
and like hear it directly from the guy and follow that training plan. So like these people are trained like from the age of 9 years old. They're already training like a
Dude,
professional.
Like just like very quickly, like similar thing though. Like I remember when I was playing guitar as a teenager, and I probably was like I'm not saying this facetiously, but I was probably one of the best like Chicago area guitar players.
I'm sure you
at the
were.
time. I was like in terms of like that Chicago pop punk emo punk scene. I was definitely like one of the top players.
Nice, man.
But now you look at like kids who are 16, 17, 18 years old, like the shit they're doing, it's a whole nother
They're
level.
like Jimi Hendrix shit.
I mean, like, yes, I can't even, I'm just sort of like,
yeah.
it's over.
yeah,
It's a whole nother thing.
yeah. It's
It's
just
a whole nother thing. And but it's just like anything else. Cycling,
Yep.
NBA,
Yeah.
basketball, like
Football.
To answer
guitar
your
playing.
question, Evan Poole is 22 years old. He will be
22.
23 in January.
wow.
Moving along, real quick. So we have Remco. So he looks like he's going to do the Giro. We also have a little bit of news here. Tom Pidcock, one of my favorite riders,
Englishman.
Englishman.
Right? Mhm.
He is returning to cyclocross. So he did the whole road season. He's making his return to cyclocross, or his debut for the season this fall, in the coming week. So I'm pretty excited about that. He's another young, upcoming rider. He's already won like lots of big shit. He's great. And we have two other pieces, Joe. So the New Yorker magazine, one of my favorite publications, but they do that kind of weekly news mag journalism. They do the longer form. They do fiction. They do like really deep reporting. They have these amazing writers. They covered cycling, Joe.
Cycling.
Cycling, something they don't cover very often. So it's going to be special. And it was about, the headline is "A Murder Royals the Cycling World." Subhead is "In gravel racing, the sport's hottest category, the killing has exposed a lot of dirt." So it's by Ian Parker, and this is a really, there's no real news in this, so it's kind of like a deeper dive into the full picture story. But it is a very well written, nice long piece. If anyone is so interested, the New Yorker is kind of known for its great writing and editing. But it is about that murder that happened.
That was in the gravel.
in the gravel world. Yeah. So it's in that story is kind of developing. They're trying to I think they've set a date for the trial for next year, and I won't go into it too much, but definitely check it out. It's a really nice recap if you've been out of the scene a little bit. But yeah, Mariah Wilson was shot dead in Austin, Texas.
Kind of like a lover's triangle, right? Or kind of. No, she
that's-
wasn't exactly a lover, but kind of.
Well, she did have a relationship with what's his name, and so it was kind of a bizarre love triangle.
Yeah.
But that's the story we're getting, the narrative, but we don't know obviously all the
All the
details.
details, yeah.
But Colin Strickland was the guy at the middle of it. Anyway, so if you're interested in that, it's definitely very special when the New Yorker covers something like a thing like that.
Yeah, especially like gravel cycling.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's kind of like a subgenre of
It is
cycling, right?
as someone once said, a subset of a subset of a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have like just the last little piece, Joe. I think it's a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can read through it. I think I could do it pretty quickly, but
Okay.
it's on VelaNews.com,
Okay.
one of our favorite pubs. And the headline, Joe, is "What does your bike say about you?"
Uh-oh.
The subhead here is "We did some research to get the definite truth," and there's a little bit of a wink, wink here. And it's by Will Tracy, who's a lovely guy who I've ridden bikes with. He's a cool dude. And so whether you realize it or not, Joe, what bike you ride says a lot about you.
Okay.
What are you telegraphing to the world with yours, Joe? Your look.
Mm-hmm.
Credit Agricole team issue. We did some research to get the definitive with tongue firmly planted in cheek truth. And so it goes through many of the top brands, and it gives just a little bit of kind of a color take on what that bike means. So I'm going to go through them real quick. Is
Yeah.
that cool?
Yeah.
Pinarello, Joe.
Uh-huh.
So here, feel free if you want to.
Pinarello, like what does it say about the guy?
Yeah.
When I see a Pinarello, I think of a 5'2" Filipino dude.
Okay. Their take here, again, this is tongue in cheek.
Uh-huh.
People frequently mistake you for a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually an orthodontist.
Ah.
The only dogma you subscribe to is upgrading your bike every year. That's a little play on the bike model, the Pinarello dogma. And the last point they have on the Pinarello, Joe, is wearing Rafa. You're wearing Rafa at this very moment.
Yeah, I can see that. I
thought it was fun. Ridley, Joe.
You know what? Did I tell you guys about when I got beat up by a bunch of guys wearing mustaches?
That is the best segue I've ever heard of my life.
Rafa wool jerseys.
No.
What?
I was riding.
All right, I need to hear this.
Wait.
I was riding down Milwaukee Avenue on my Trek 800, and these guys all came out the alleys with mustaches.
Wearing mustaches?
Handlebar mustache?
They had actual
They all
real
had mustaches and Rafa jerseys, and they said, "You're not allowed to ride on these streets. Where's your mustache bar?"
Here we go.
I'm making that all up.
Here we go with Ridley, a Belgian hard man through and through. Waits until it starts raining to head out for a ride, despite living in Southern California. Rides highway rumble strips in desperate ploy to recreate cobblestones.
Yeah, I could see that. A Ridley, yeah.
I love that. Moots, if you're a Moots rider, Masters rider who will rip your legs off on the flats, but immediately gets dropped on the mere suggestion of an incline.
I could see that.
We used to call it. So hold on, real quick. At Village Cycle, there was this guy. His name was Eric Mann. He was so funny. We used to call it Old Man Muscle, and it was guys who were like masters riders.
Yeah.
And they had these big legs,
Yeah.
huge legs, but it was just like
Old man muscle.
old man muscle. Yeah.
Specialized knows, all the world championships because of this bike, or where they were. They have a missing word here, I think. You would spend $10 on a gallon of milk if it said S Works on it.
I could see that. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
The specialized people. Specialized people are very. They drink the Kool-Aid.
Specialized.
Oh
This
yeah.
is pretty legit. Yeah.
Colnago, you prefer the Giro d'Italia over the Tour de France. You went out of your way to find a bike with Campagnolo because you have to have everything Italian. Your delusions of one day going pro are fueled by the espresso machine, in your kitchen that costs as much as your bike.
Well, the kitchen's way more than the bike.
They definitely have the campy wine bottle opener.
You know what's crazy is like no one now today in this day and age, like who cares about campy? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
well, you know what?
ooh,
There's
careful there.
probably a handful of
Careful
people that
there,
are
buddy.
Well, I'm sorry, but do people actually still care about camping?
I think
Noah?
some do.
there are select pockets around the country that are still campy.
Do they still? Does Campy still make new stuff?
Oh yeah, they still make it.
Are they still? They're
not very
still
common.
around.
They take
Yeah, they're still
forever,
around.
and it's not always great.
And
But
it's not common.
Is it called like super record? now?
Yes,
Or like what's it
it's
called?
like 3 supers,
It's like ultra super
actually
record.
written-
ultra
super
super
script.
record. Yeah.
Okay.
Chanelli, you post approximately one Instagram story every per mile ridden.
It's like a Keith Haring.
Yeah,
it
he
is.
did
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Real
Mhm.
interesting.
Joe hung out with Keith Haring. Did you know that?
No,
Yeah,
really?
here in Chicago.
No
Back
way.
in my graffiti
story.
hip-hop
Here, can we
days.
talk? Here, let's turn this off.
No, it's news. It's got to.
No,
This
but
is news. We're gonna come back. We'll
Yeah,
come
we'll
back.
come
All right.
We got a news thing
Wait,
here.
is this
Yeah.
still going?
Yeah, we're still
BMC.
going. It's
Okay.
we got-
BMC.
yeah.
Wait, do we need?
Actually, the strongest person in your local group ride. Yes, you did mention your bike is Swiss.
I sold BMC the first couple of years. I
Those
was
are
hoping as a
sweet.
bike shop.
Here, keep going. I'm gonna grab. Do you need a beer?
I'm okay at the moment. Bianchi, you don't care what color your bike comes in as long as it's Celeste.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. Bianchi people are.
And Joe, we have look.
People will pay.
You still think your bike from 1997 is state of the art because it is made of carbon fiber.
That's me.
It is you.
I have it just because I like lugged carbon.
You were once a contender in road racing, but now stick to the track.
Not the track, but I was once a active road racer.
Cube. We're not actually sure where you found one of these.
Mhm.
You probably also imported a secondhand Canyon into the U.S. back in 2015.
Yeah.
I love that. Canyon, speaking of, favorite colors are black, silver, and slightly darker black.
Mm-hmm.
All others make you a bit slower. They have a missing word here. Currently working out how to buy everything else direct to consumer. Cervello. Favorite cycling quote is buy upgrades, don't ride upgrades.
Oh.
Yikes. Cannondale knows bicycles reach their peak with alloy. Giants loves a deal, clips coupons in their spare time.
Yeah. See that too.
Scott, road cycling isn't your main sport, but you're inexplicably faster than all your dedicated roadie friends. And that's the news roundup, Joe. Like I said, Pitcock coming back to cyclocross. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Evanpol doing the Giro.
Evanpol rumored to be doing the Giro. We'll confirm that in a future episode. And we have what does your bike say about you, along with a very deep, long form piece on the Mariah Wilson murder trial, which is going to be making headlines for months to come because that trial's not even until like next year. So
that's is that in Texas? Is it
where they actually have the trial? I'm not sure, but I believe she was taken from Costa Rica where she was on the run. There was a manhunt.
Oh, this is the killer.
She's the alleged killer. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but she is I think has pleaded guilty so far, or not guilty.
But
so
the
far.
murder, the shooting occurred in was that Texas?
In Austin, yes.
That was in Austin,
yeah.
right?
And she was in town for a race. So
yeah, that was like a race weekend. And
yeah.
I mean, I remember reading a little bit about all of that. Well,
so they're going to have that, and we'll see what happens. But
good.
It was interesting for the New Yorker to do a big piece on it.
It's like good news, bad news, right? Cycling is in the news.
Yes, exactly.
They deemed it worthy enough to cover.
Yeah.
Bad news is it took killing someone.
It's a very typical cycling thing because a lot of times it's like it's like doping. Like we're in the news for doping.
Yeah.
But not like good stuff.
Yeah.
So there's your news roundup.
Maybe we got to go. Commit a crime or something. We get the podcast done.
We'll commit not crimes but acts of kindness.
There you go.
This has been fun.
Yeah, it has been fun.
AJ, it's been amazing to have you here, sir.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me close the door.
Wait, are we still doing the?
No, I'm going to close the newsroom.
The typewriter.
Right.
Shut the newsroom. Yeah. Okay, the newsroom's over.
Close the door.
Breaking news, eh?
Yeah. So, Joe, tell us what's the latest news.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Well, this has been fun, guys.
Yeah,
I think we should wrap.
See you guys in Spain.
We'll talk about that maybe in the next episode.
Maybe the next episode. Thanks for coming, AJ. This is
Yes.
is
Yeah,
fantastic.
AJ, yeah, this is like a
cheers.
Pros.
Yeah. Hey guys, this was fun. Nice bullshit with y'all.
Absolutely.
Adios.
We regret everything we said.